This is not an interaction with our visitors, so keep your comments to yourself, I would ask, because we cannot exchange a dialogue back with you. So with that having been said, the first item would be to approve the minutes from March 18th. As we look at that, there is one little bit of change from what you had in the electronic version, and that is the motion that Commissioner Carol Bright made dealing with section 2.04 was not 100% accurate. That's been corrected, and that document in its entirety was added to the official minutes, so it will be in the minutes as it was intended to be stated. So if you would review that, and when appropriate, would take a motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Marta. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a second. Okay, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, show of hands, please. Minutes passed unanimously. Okay. The next is to review the Richardson City Charter, Articles 1 through 21. As proposed and considered, as far as any of the recommendations for amendments there too. So I'll hand this off to Pete and let him lead us with that portion right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would say we'll just go through page by page, and I didn't address the AP and I didn't do that because I thought it would be more confusing. I thought it'd be easier just to go through the entire thing, and then as we go through, if you identify capitalization and items like that. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
One thing I guess I should say before we get into them, we're going to start with Article 1, but you have a letters, and as appropriate as we do in all other meetings, as we receive input from our citizens, you have an opportunity to read those, and especially if they're relevant to the article in which we are addressing, we may want to discuss these items and make sure that these citizens have been heard as far as their opinions, and if we want to address that or include that. Okay? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask a question about 1.03.
Please, Bill, go ahead.
When I read it, it says the city may time to time alter its boundaries by annexing any territory adjoining its present boundary, blah, blah. Then the next sentence says, in addition, the city may annex additional territory lying adjacent, blah, blah. Isn't that kind of redundant? I mean, I see the second sentence also goes on to say that you can do it without the consent of the inhabitants, present and future, but didn't we just say twice that the city can annex territory? Was there, I don't remember our discussion on that, was there a reason for that?
I think the key is lying adjacent versus territories adjoining to present future boundaries.
Is there a difference between adjoining and adjacent?
It is if the city surrounds a piece of property.
Pardon me?
Take, for example, and I don't know if we've totally surrounded Buckingham or not.
Sure.
But I think adjacent would be the next few over if you have something in the middle discussing on that, Bill?
To me, they're kind of saying the same thing.
It's all talking about annexation.
Sure, but I just was curious, that seemed to be being redundant about it. I mean, so it's not technically wrong, just when you see redundancies, you wonder if they were done on purpose, and if they're trying to say something that's not obvious.
I think it's a moot point at this point.
I just was curious if anyone remembered the discussion on that, if there was some reason why there was this apparent redundancy.
Why is it moved? Because we're
Plan
totally
law.
surrounded.
Okay, well, on 1.03, my question or comment was one of the global changes or one of the global issues that we had come up with. The last sentence says, any territory annexed shall become a part of the city and said land and its residents, and future residents, we talk about residents, and bear with me, in 11.4 we call them citizens, in 14.6 we call them people, in 19.5 we call them residents, in 20.01 we call them electors, and in 20.03 we call them voters.
In 1.03, the context is correct.
So we want to keep it this one resident.
In this context, it's correct.
I mean, okay, so that's what I wanted to double check this.
And Bill, I don't recall there being any discussion about whether those two were redundant. I'm looking at to see.
Okay, so we're not trying to say anything sneaky here.
No,
We're repeating that we can annex adjacent land. Which, as John pointed out, someone would have to de-annex some adjacent land.
Well, the second sentence talks about without the consent of the territory.
Sure.
So
And there is
there's
an
a-
additional thing here.
Right, so they're
All right.
different.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem with that.
Any other discussion on 1.02 or 1.03?
Well, hold on. Another generality. When we were talking about as required by blank, right? When we decided that we were always going to stay by the Constitution and the laws of the state of Texas? So like in 1.02, or sometimes it just needs to say as required by state law, or as required by federal and state law?
I think we talked about it, but I don't think we necessarily decided.
Because sometimes, like when I went through this, sometimes it
It
seemed
says
like.
Constitution, the laws of the state of Texas, and
Well,
some
I
variation.
fixed the ones that I think were supposed to be Constitution of the state of, and the laws of the state of Texas. But like in 1.02, I'm not the lawyer, so that's why I'm asking the three lawyers here, if that one was supposed to be more just about the state law and not requiring the entire Constitution and laws of the state of Texas.
I think in 1.02, the context is correct.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve 1.01, 1.02, and 1.03 as corrected by Shannon.
Okay. Motion on the table to approve 1.01, 1.02, 1.03 as written. Got a second? Jason, I'll second. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, vote of show of hands in favor, please. Passes unanimously. Okay. Article 2, powers of the city.
So in 2.01, Amy, the second line, it should be the Constitution and the laws of the state of Texas, and laws of the state of Texas, to be consistent. So every time we do Constitution and laws of the state of Texas, it shouldn't be Constitution or, and it shouldn't be Constitution and the.
But those things are not separate and individual. They are separate and individual, and it's not always and, because it doesn't come from both
Well,
often.
either way, so that this is the beginning of the rest of the document. So whatever we decide here, so that we can remain consistent.
I understand.
You're kind of saying they're derived from different sources,
Exactly.
where the Constitution is something that was established, long before us. It's amended frequently, but whereas the legislature.
You want to keep it or?
I don't know. I would say that we don't want to offend either the Constitution or the state of Texas, so we would want to abide by the rules of both, but, and may be a good way to say that.
More often in the document, we had and that's why I went back, I changed this one, but if it's a legal precedent.
And you just have to drop down to 202 and you see the and used.
I would just say this is another case where if you say and in some places and are in other places, people start to wonder if you're meaning two different things.
Exactly.
When we in fact don't mean two different things. So why don't we just say it the same way
Yeah,
every
that's
time?
why.
Unless, as John says, we actually mean something different.
Gerald, got a question for Pete. Pete, when we say and, is that requiring both to be true? And or one or the other? In other words, granted to municipalities by the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas. If it says and,
We can cover ourselves by and/or.
well, I've been told by a judge that there is no such thing as and or.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's
You get slapped down in her court. So I'll defer to the city attorney on that.
Well, I think in 201, thanks. I think in 201, the context is correct when it says the Constitution or the laws of the state of Texas, because as a home rule city, you have the powers that's granted by the home rule charter section of the Constitution, and then there's also powers that, or there are powers granted by the statute. So,
What about what Bill brings up in the fact that when sometimes we use or and sometimes we use and, it creates confusion or the possibility of doubt?
But I'm thinking that maybe the context governs versus uniformity.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
I think that's a good point. Or somehow seems appropriate. I think that.
I would make an argument for or, because you're talking about the specific powers that the city has. It's derived first by the Constitution of the state of Texas. But you may have laws that not necessarily modify, but they may enhance, what the, I could go with or. I could go either way.
I think it's appropriate in this context.
First, do no harm.
Let's see how we feel in 202.
There is no and or.
It just says and.
I do have a comma.
Okay, 2.02 is just some capital letters.
Well, thereof. I mean, there should be a comma after thereof, I think. I mean,
So the third line.
third
second
line,
word.
I'm sorry. Which under the Constitution, or exercise thereof, comma, the city shall have.
It would improve readability.
Amy, do you see it on this third line, exercise thereof, comma, the city?
So comma goes after what?
Thereof.
Yeah, I agree.
What are we changing and or in the constitutional laws of the state?
Are you on 201 or are we
She's on
looking at it for
202.
202? Okay.
Line 4.
Same issue.
Why do we say are in one place and in another? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Hey, tell me where you're talking about the comma?
Third line, second word, after the second word.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, as long as we're having fun. Back up on 201, the last line, we say, last two lines, maybe provide by ordinance or resolution of the city council of the city of Richardson, or can we just say of the city council, period? as long as we're looking at that concept, City of Richardson. I know that some places we refer to as the city, other times we refer to City of Richardson.
Well, it's not the first time there's a reference to the city council of the city of Richardson in 102.
But it's, the council has to make that resolution, so you gotta have them there. Because they're the people that would enact it. Is that not correct?
But he's suggesting that we drop out the city of Richardson, as it's inferred that it's of our city.
Wasn't one of that part of wasn't that part of one of the global discussions?
To me, it's a harmless redundancy, just as annexing twice.
So one is without consent.
So do no harm prevail then?
But the first clause is redundant. And yeah, I mean, sure, could you say it more pithily? Sure. Does it hurt the way it is? Do no harm.
Do you want to add something to say like 101 and say references to the city, shall mean the city of Richardson?
I was going to ask, but I was afraid that people were going to wad up paper and throw it out.
I was thinking the same thing, Jason.
Well, a lot of the time in these kind of documents, you'll see a definition section.
Exactly.
And later on, there's one thing that we didn't define, it's at the very end. And I thought about that too.
Look at 301, paragraph A. We talked about, that's our definition section.
301.
Paragraph A in 301. We actually make references to, we define city council, blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
You're saying the same thing if you want to make city or city of Richardson. Pete will remember that I wanted to introduce the charter
Yes, I did.
definition section.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Well, it was really important in 301 because we used all sorts of different words.
Yeah, because officer was never defined, and that's in 17, I believe. The word officer.
So honestly, Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem with saying that the city council of the city of Richardson. I don't see any harm in it.
Okay. Everybody else good with that?
Not a hill to die on.
Okay, 2.02. And 2.03.
So we're going to add a comma to 2.02 after thereof?
Yes.
Yes.
And this one seems appropriate to keep the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas.
But take out the, and take out and laws of the state of Texas.
I'm sorry?
Right.
On 203, the second
Yeah.
sentence at the very
Oh,
end,
Yes.
to be consistent.
By the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas.
And you want to take that out?
Take out the word
Just keep consistent.
I don't see where you are.
The second's on the second line.
Authorize or
The second
permitted-
Words
last
from
word.
the end on the second line, take out the.
Or permitted by the Constitution and,
No, just
203.
203, I'm sorry.
It's actually later in that sentence, you have the Constitution and laws of the state.
You have two, you have
I was about
twice.
to point that out.
you have it twice, but it's on the second.
We dropped
Oh,
of Texas the
Sorry.
second time.
Oh, yeah, and we need to add of Texas, because that's consistent. Okay, so this is one of those, Bill, actually, where I thought this was also repetitive, but wasn't this added? Pete, didn't you add this? So whereas, what,
It was in like Article 11 or was in a later section, and we moved it up to here.
but is this, since this is something, could we add, we moved
This
it
is
up,
from the deletion of 18.
of 18. Okay, so this is
In,
not,
in theory, if we've adopted all the powers granted to a home rule city and by the statutes we have, but it's a fairly typical provision in a city charter. It's not harmful to
to
make
just
it
leave
clear.
it in. do we want to continue with?
I think we ought to do each, finish with, look at 204 and then approve each article is what I think we ought to do, be faster.
But on 203, on the fourth line, do we want to continue with every time we say Constitution and laws of the state of Texas? Because the second time we refer to that on 203, it just says of the state. It's line 4, Amy, 3/4 of the way down the line.
In 204?
Yes, ma'am. 203, I'm so sorry, 203. I apologize.
Since we're already rewriting the section, we might as well rewrite it the way we want to. So I would say state of Texas, both places.
I think every place.
All right, so tell me what you're changing.
So on the fourth line of 203, it just says charter or by the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas. Period. The power of eminent domain, blah, 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 blah.
And we're taking out the before the laws on the second line.
Just-
Okay.
And then on 204, Amy, second line, take out the again. Authorized or permitted by the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas. So take out the second, the after and. Just to keep it consistent.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments in regards to Article 2?
So in 203, we're adding of Texas and striking the. Is that the only changes in 203?
Yes.
And in 202, add the comma.
And 204, take out the
204,
second line.
take out the.
the-
Got a motion to approve Article 2 with corrections?
So moved.
All right, Jason has a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Got Erica? Okay. Any further discussion? Gerald, you have some discussion?
No, sir, I was gonna second the motion.
All right, you got beat to the punch, sorry. All right. Show of hands, all in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, brings us to Article 3, City Council. And I think that we do have some comments from our, some citizens that we might want to review as we look at this. And
Can I ask one question?
please do.
Amy, maybe you can confirm, or Shanna, since you've got the document. 1, 2, 3. On the fourth line, after members, is there a period there? I couldn't tell on the document. After members. Oh, you both have the written version, so maybe you can tell me.
Yeah, there should be.
No, there should be.
Yeah.
Okay,
Looks like
so
it was redlined out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't
My
sure.
fault.
No, I just wasn't sure. So before we get into the discussion, just figure it out.
I think I'll go ahead and say this. I think that some of the concern obviously is the way 3.01 is, and with the things that have just recently happened with our mayor and so forth, we have a recommendation to change what we were doing, which is currently in place. And regardless what our recommendation is, whether it's agreed upon or whether everyone agrees on it, this is going to be in place until it's voted on in October. So nothing that we do between now and then is going to change anything that happens with the election in which we have right now. And so I think, you know, there are some concerns. So as you think about that, or in the future, is there something that we want to look at or not look at? We do have that ability to look at this with the recent events in mind, and we can make that proposal to our city councilman.
So if in fact that's where we want to go, so.
We want to start with 3.01.
I think we ought to start with 3.01, yes, ma'am.
We need to acknowledge or further consider the recommendation from the Macy's to look at term.
Do we want to rate
term
these?
limits. I don't recall discussion about that the first time.
This is that we just received all these.
Discussion on term limits. I don't recall having a discussion on term
Okay.
limits.
Yeah,
We did
That's
at
what we did
length.
for
We
the
put
board.
on the board
I was
and
absent, that's why.
Yes.
Good.
there was significant, there was a lot of
we went to the
voting.
board.
There was discussion.
We had-
Lively.
Good.
Pete got up with colored markers.
Didn't help any that night either.
So it's been discussed.
Oh, yes.
But I would just comment that there's an old saying, you can't go home again. And basically, I don't think we can go backwards in time on this issue or the method of selection of the mayor after a citizen's vote has indicated that they would prefer to go in the way in which it was conducted last time. And term limits, we have a rather generous term limits of 12 years on the council. And if we were at 6, I'd say that's a little too short, but 12 is not an unreasonable period of time. And these are things that you don't want to whipsaw back and forth on. You want to kind of decide this, and so everybody understands the rules and go forward from there. So I'd recommend we keep things as they are at this point, unless anybody can come up with a really good reason to change.
But for the record, should we kind of read into, or at least discuss the comments from our citizens? Like, and talk about that Gene and Bob Macy did bring up that they would prefer that, that their vote select council members rather than a prejudging edict. We would prefer to be able to vote for any candidate. That they would delete term limits. They would, the second is to go back to the original method of selecting a mayor. Should we also mention that?
You want to finish that one first?
Just read the whole thing, or do you want me to? How do you want to do this?
If you want to read it, you can, but we can just make it part of the record and whatever your pleasure is.
I just want to make sure all of these are in the record.
Everybody has a copy of this?
Yep.
And the Macy's are asking us to eliminate term limits, and the other is to go back to the
Original method.
original selection of the mayor, and that be selected mayor from the bottom.
Just a question, do the recent events have anything to do with our opinion of their second, going back to the original method, selecting the mayor?
Well, as I'm sure you've probably read or heard, we had the citizen initiated charter amendment to go to the direct election of the mayor. And in their proposition that was approved by the voters, they included a provision that said that the mayor pro tem would fill the vacancy in the office of the mayor. So that may not be what was intended, because it seems to be contrary to the concept that they always want to be able to elect the mayor. So nonetheless, that's what the voters approved, and that's what we have. So, and I think that's Mr. Chenowitz's. I think that's his comment on the handout he provided tonight. So what's going on doesn't really have anything to do with it, other than there are some people who, in exchange of emails, all the controversies going on, I pointed out to them that was put in the charter, and so there couldn't be any collaboration or conspiracy, because regardless of what happened, whether someone resigned or declined to accept office, that's what's in the charter. So,
Is the current charter written to deal with the current situation? I mean,
well,
can
it
we
depends
go
on
forth?
depends on what you want. Right now, the charter is presently written, and I think as we have gone through it, provides for the appointment to fill vacancies. And when we went through this before, you had recommended taking out that the mayor pro tem fill the vacancy in the office of the mayor. Now,
We, not me.
oh, anyway, the discussion was. I've gathered from the emails from the citizens that they would prefer to have an election to fill the vacancy and I don't want to say I'm speaking for, but I gathered that there's concern that they don't want the council to appoint someone to serve a vacancy in the mayor. They'd rather have an election for it. And right now, our charter doesn't provide for that. And so when we get to that section, we should talk about that, because if there's a change in what we previously discussed, if you want to provide for election to fill a vacancy, then we got to provide for it, because if you don't have it in the charter, then all you can do is do what the charter says, which is appoint.
And right now, it's an order of things.
It's all by appointment. There's no election.
But it's in other words, I won't say two vacancies.
Nothing, no, 3.
If you have more than two at a single time, which.
But in other words, right now, because of the way things are now, we can only, or we as the residents of Richardson, have one way to move forward in this situation.
Right.
Until, because of the order of things, until this charter is changed
Right.
and approved of,
Right.
then the order
Right.
changes, because then.
Right, and that's the point I try to make to citizens, that you need to recognize that's what the
Well, it
voters
might not
do.
change.
And that's
Exactly,
in-
or it might
that's
not
in the
change.
charter, yeah.
Mhm. But it's the order of things.
Pete,
So even if the council wanted to call election, they can't, because the charter doesn't allow it.
do the state's standard election days come into play on whether or not we'd be able to carry out a process like that, where all of a sudden we need to have a special election to fill a seat? How do you
Right.
fit that in with
It's
the
gotta
number?
be the uniform election day,
So it has to be either
one of the two elections.
May or November?
Mayor, November.
Right.
Which
I
that's
remember
more
serving.
Yeah, there's still.
I'm sorry, Kim.
I'm jumping ahead. I'll save my comment.
Should we go ahead and jump to 3.07, since that seems to
I
be
think a
what
lot of it is
discussion's about?
kind of intermingled anyway, so let's do it.
Well, I
Can't we?
would say that I would have to disagree with the statement that there's only one way to do it.
No, I think it's an order of things to do
No,
it.
I don't think there's only one order, because there is no preference expressed in here about what comes first, 303 or 307. I don't see any reason why the council couldn't choose to fill place 7 before voting for the mayor pro tem. I'm not recommending that, but I don't see any reason why the council can't do that, because the charter is silent on it. And so, and in fact, in 2013, at the campus meeting, the election of the mayor pro tem was actually the last thing on the agenda. So, they could have, and of course, this was never a problem prior to 2012, but they could have just filled place 7 first, and then gone and picked the mayor pro tem. And so that's a worthy thing of discussion, that it doesn't really specify what the order is.
But they can't fill place 7.
Why not?
Because it says in 303, which is more specific, that a vacancy in office of mayor is filled by the mayor pro tem.
Sure, it does say that.
So that's going to control.
But there is a problem there. And it used to be clear before we deleted the last 2 lines. The current writing, the current way is expressed in 303, as edited, is that it implies that the mayor pro tem performs the duties of the mayor, but maybe isn't the mayor. The last 2 lines that we've marked as deleted made it pretty clear that the mayor pro tem would be the mayor.
Right.
And that causes a consideration. Does that mean, the last 2 lines that have been marked as deleted indicate that whoever was in place X would now have to drop place X and go become place 7, okay?
But by deleting that bill, you eliminated that possibility.
So,
But we're having it. It's still our charter today.
Right, it's still in charge today,
Yeah.
so you need to really, I know it's kind of hard to distance yourself from what's going on now, but you got to think
No,
about
I don't have a
what,
problem with that.
you just need to figure out what it is you want, because right now,
Well,
if
but
you leave
that's
that
why
in 303.
I'm bringing up the issue.
Okay.
Do we want the mayor pro tem to become the mayor or not? Because it used to be clear in the 2012 charter, and now it's not so clear anymore. Do we want the mayor pro tem to become the mayor? In which case, why don't we just say so? instead of saying that the mayor pro tem performs the duties of the office and has all the powers belonging to the mayor, why don't we just say the person's the mayor?
Well, hang on, we had this conversation last time. 303 had kind of two subjects in there. One was talking about the mayor pro tem performing the duties of the mayor
Sure.
during the absence of the mayor. That is
Sure.
like running the
Yep.
meetings,
That's
that
fine.
kind of thing. And then what got added at the charter election was that last sentence, which it doesn't have to do with, you know, chairing the meeting. It has to do with you
With the
become the mayor.
vacancy. Right.
So,
Right. But this current version is taking that out.
correct.
Is that what the Charter Commission actually wants to do, to take it out?
That's what you previously said, and that's why I put a note in there to remind you about that, so anyway, I guess a better way, maybe the best thing to do is, let's finish the term limits, because we, you know,
I
because,
thought we'd already finished term limits a long time ago.
so, but the Macy's have asked that we consider revisit, delete the term limits, so.
Well, it goes back to what John was sharing with us, what his belief was. Does someone have a different belief than what John stated earlier in the fact that 12 years is adequate and not too long and not too short? I think that's what John was
Do you
sharing.
want a motion on
I don't know that we need a motion right now, but I think we need to make sure we're through, like Pete is saying, or are we all in agreement that we can move forward, or is there any further discussion on terms? I think term limits, and I think what John had said is he wants to leave it as is.
I agree with John.
Okay, all right.
One quick second, let me just make sure that Mr. Chenoweth didn't put anything about term limits, so we can put it on the record that he mentioned term limits. Okay, just want to make sure.
Okay.
So the rest of it kind of goes back to, what do you want to do when there's a vacancy on the council? Do you want to make, is it any different, the mayor versus the other members? So if you want to give the council authority to call an election, then we need to put that in there. If you don't want the mayor pro tem to become the mayor, then 303 needs to come out, and then it gets appointed. Right now it says vacancies are filled by appointment unless there's more than 2 vacancies at a single time.
I think that's the threshold to look at.
Right, and so and I've heard from the citizens of the emails, they don't like the idea that the mayor pro tem, they don't like the idea that
By default.
or don't like the idea that the council is going to appoint someone to be the mayor. So maybe you consider whether you treat vacancy of the mayor differently than you do other council members.
I think we have an opportunity to be responsive to these concerns because we're hearing them loud and clear. I think we could consider one of 2 things, and that's calling a special election in the event the vacancy is by the mayor, or I know several other jurisdictions look at a special election if there's more than a year left in the term for any council member or the mayor's vacancy. Either of those actions would address the current situation we're in the future.
In other words, if it's a short term, they could appoint, but if
Yeah.
it's a
term
longer term.
longer than a year, I think
then
it
call
should trigger
special
a
election.
special election.
Actually, also, to be considered might be how close is it to the regularly scheduled election?
That's how it's spelled out in the education code to replace the trustee.
And remember as well, when we discussed recall,
I know, we put that in there, and I think that's a good way to do it. But that was on recall, and all I'm saying is if we have a resignation, someone gets a job somewhere else, has to move, and the timing on that, if it's, if it's within a certain period of time before the election, then let the election take care of it. If it's further back and you want to have somebody appointed to temporarily fill that job, or work, or go without them, if you still have the quorum.
Kim, you had mentioned that, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, with that, you might have to change the quorum, the quorum section, just as to what it would require to have.
Well, it has a drop-down feature.
It does,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Kim, you were mentioning about school trustees?
It's written in the education code how we get to replace, and it has to do with the amount of time until the next election. So I wonder if we could scratch everybody's itch by just deleting city council in the next to the last line under 3.07. That says they serve until the next general election, which in theory would only be about 6 months away. It'd be November or May, right?
So even when there's less than a year in a term, we'd have to have an election? Someone resigns
If
in
the council
October.
appointed.
You talking about all council members or just the mayor or what?
I'm just saying that if the council opted to replace the vacancy, which they have to do now.
Yes.
I'm relating to school boards, we did not have to
No,
replace them.
your language was different, that's true.
Right, okay, so if you replace somebody, they only serve until the next general election.
Right.
But that means if someone resigns in October, the next general election is in November, but they had less than a year to go to the next municipal election, which is in May.
So your deal is dealing with staggered terms, so that if they get appointed, till somebody's term that doesn't expire at the next general election, the person they appoint would only serve till that next general election, and so they would elect somebody. Is that what you're?
I'm looking for ways to give the council options so that they don't have to replace a vacancy, and if they do, that person can serve until the next general election instead of the next city council election. That by mandate tells you it's gonna be 2 years maximum instead of 6 months.
Even though it says in 307, that last sentence, general city council election, our only option for a general election is in May. Any other
Okay.
election would be a special election.
Okay. That's my 2 cents.
Hey, one thing that Kim did brought up is that the Richardson School Board did have the option, if there was less than a year to go in a term, of not replacing the person at all. Because we say shall, and their education code says may.
May.
And so that's interesting, and apparently he told me about a time when you guys chose to let the voters pick the person at the next election, rather than
My
put
time on the
somebody
board,
in
we
there.
had 2 resignations, and we opted to leave those seats vacant, believing that the electorate needed to choose.
An interesting alternative.
But depending on how close we were to the next election,
Sure.
we had the option.
Sure.
And the election code said you may not replace if it's within X number of days. Was it 60? You looked at it.
Probably 60. Well, one thing that bothers me about 303 is that the people by 75% vote voted to put in those last 2 lines. So why are we in such a hurry to yank them out? I mean, we kind of forget because of a few mentions in a blog, 75% of the voters 2 years ago put them in.
Some of the mayor pro tem?
No, the last 2 lines about 303, about upon a vacancy in the mayor's position, the pro tem shall fill the unexpired term, the mayor shall, position shall, the mayor pro tem shall become vacant. That was put in 2002. Yeah, the other 2002, 2012. I mean, it was put in by 75% of the voters, as they keep telling us. So why do we think we should take it out?
That's a good question.
I mean, if we're supposed to be responsive to the people, I think 75% of the voters in a large turnout election is I'd rather be responsive to them than to be responsive to a few comments. Not to denigrate free speech of people, but seriously, that was 75% of the voters in a general election.
You know, I guess the concern is They did not elect the mayor pro tem. They elected the mayor, and I think that's the general
So-
issue
so-
of all of it.
But they specifically asked for it to be done that way.
They specifically asked for it not to be done that way. That's why they wanted to elect the mayor.
Who?
So the general public wanted to elect their own mayor.
Yes.
So that this group of individual council members did not elect the mayor.
Yes.
This is saying that, so then they decide amongst themselves who's mayor pro tem, so if the mayor resigns or
Yes.
heaven forbid something happens, all of a sudden the mayor pro tem,
Yes.
they're
And
contradicting
The
themselves.
voters have every right to contradict themselves.
Exactly.
In fact, you know the charter changes in 2012 were full of contradictions.
Of course. That's
But
what we're
this
doing.
is something that actually was quite clear. This wasn't really contradictory. Because after all.
Maybe an
Unintentional.
unintended consequence
Uh-huh.
also.
Yeah, but so.
Because it's contrary to the whole
Concept.
concept as been expressed by many citizens of recent.
No, because you're overstating it, because after all, if there was 2 months left in the mayor's term and the mayor resigned, do you really think the public expects you to hold a special election in the last 2 months? No, of course not. The mayor wasn't always going to be elected in any case.
I don't think any of us envisioned that an unexpired term would be a full term.
Mhm.
And that's why I think considering language saying if the unexpired term is greater than 1 year, then yes, I think we should consider a special
You
election.
could do that, it just, you're now reading the minds of the 75% of the people who voted to put this in.
It would be a year before you could hold that election.
A special election?
A special election still has to be held on.
Uniform
That's
election.
what you're saying.
A special election can be held on November,
Can't be-
but you,
It's a general election.
But to fill a vacancy in the council by election, it could be May or November.
yes.
Still got to be one of the uniform election days.
It's
So
still,
max 6 months.
So the fundamental question is do you want the council to have the authority to fill a vacancy in the office of mayor by election? Do you want to treat council members differently? That's really the fundamental question. If I've misstated that, please correct me. I don't think you have.
No, that's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with the way the code is written right now, where it was clear what was to be done. And it was clear that 75% of the people supported it. I do have a question, which I didn't quite get a chance to dispose earlier, but did we really intend, if we left in those 2 lines at the end of 303, do we really intend to change the place of the mayor pro tem from whatever it was to 7?
The mayor pro tem's place would not change.
Okay,
But
we say elsewhere
Let's-
that the mayor has to be place 7. We do.
Okay, I think we had this discussion before, so what will happen,
Just
if
exactly.
you, okay, bear with me. If you have a vacancy office of the mayor,
Mhm.
it's filled by the mayor pro tem.
Mhm.
Mayor pro tem is in place 4.
Mhm.
The councilman in place 4 takes the oath of office of mayor, becomes the mayor. Council member place 4 becomes vacant. So you're not
Place 4
changing
becomes-
place
okay.
numbers.
Now-
Taking the body out of place 4 becomes the
Okay,
mayor,
well,
and then there's a vacancy, and
It's the same difference. Now, the reason I
it's
mention
not the
that
same difference.
is because that means that suppose the person who was in place 4 now gets promoted to place 7, so to speak, and if I remember state law correctly, when that person, suppose they don't want to be mayor the next time, suppose they'd like to go back to representing place 4,
They'd have to run it.
but they cannot run for re-election. They can't say re-elect so-and-so because they weren't in place 4, they were in place 7.
If they were
it's-
Well,
elected in place
let's say,
four.
let's say for
It's
example,
quite specific, you can only run for re-election in the place you were actually in.
right,
And
say,
now he's in 7.
let's say for example, right now, the mayor resigned, and we had a vacant, the mayor resigned, and there was a vacancy in the office of the mayor. The mayor pro tem would take the oath, become the mayor.
Mhm.
There would then be a vacancy,
In one.
In 1.
One.
Bob Townsend,
One.
Is
one.
one.
There'd be a vacancy
Yeah.
in
One.
one.
Yeah.
Mr. Townsend is still running for place 1. And it may, if he gets reelected place 1, he goes back to being
That's fine,
Councilmember
Pete.
place
I'm
1.
saying is that the state code forbids him to say on his sign, re-elect Bob Townsend. because he wasn't in place 1 in the last term, he was in place 7.
Can I actually put this on the board?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Because I'm not understanding something.
No.
Hey, John, do you remember that, about the elect versus re-elect? You can only say re-elect.
Can I
if
sit
you're
over here so I can
re-elected
see?
For the same office,
Yeah,
which we now have just moved that person out of that office.
I understand.
What about the case of
Do we need
redistricting?
clarifying language in 303 that discusses the exact effect of Mayor Pro Tem being elevated to the mayor's role and what the effect would be on his previous place?
See, I never assumed that the mayor pro tem would actually take the position of the mayor. He just fulfilled the duties of the mayor.
That's why I'm glad I brought this up, because
And
that
so-
was
There's
the
like
language.
that.
There's a
That's
difference.
what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
It's a difference between filling a vacancy and a difference between filling a vacancy versus performing the duties of the mayor while the mayor's gone.
Exactly. And
And
that's
you're
why I'm
talking about
asking
chairing the
which one
meetings,
do we
going to
need?
ceremonies and
Right.
signing ordinances while the
Because
mayor's
it
out
was
of town.
written one way in the current charter, and we're gonna write it a different way. I mean, do we actually want it to be where Bob Townsend would stay place 1 and simply exercise all the duties of the mayor?
I don't think we can switch around places. I don't think that's the intent.
Okay, if you do that, there is someplace else that we say that the mayor
It must
is
be
place
place
7
7.
and place 7 is the
I
mayor.
didn't
We
think
need
we
to
have
amend
choice.
that.
No, no, we don't. No, we don't.
Wait, slow
You
down
said
real
it
quick.
contradicted.
But
No.
Bill, hold on, slow down. Right now, just, because I want to make sure I'm understanding, and I think we're all, so right now, in today, just we're using today as though,
Yeah.
we're using the people that we know, so it's easier to understand. So right now, Bob is in 1,
Yep,
so
Man.
Laura is resigning. So now Bob is gonna be mayor.
But
Right.
he moves over to place 7.
So Bob is gonna go to place 7. So now 1 is vacant?
Yes.
Okay.
But if Bob
In
runs,
May, who's running for 1?
He's still running. He's still running, and if he gets reelected to place 1, he goes back to place 1, and the office of the mayor becomes vacant again, and you have to go through the process again.
I don't dispute that, I'm just talking about,
I'm
he
sorry.
can't say he's running
There-
for.
Say that
everybody
again.
understand
Just
that?
say that again, yes,
Okay.
say that slowly.
So the mayor's gone.
May 2nd, or May 10th.
Let's assume the mayor's gone, the mayor pro tem becomes the mayor by virtue of the charter.
Mhm.
So
He then is in place 7,
Okay.
okay? He's still currently running for place 1.
So he's running for place 1.
If he gets, hang on.
Okay.
If he gets reelected, because I believe he has an opponent, if he gets reelected to place 1, canvass the votes, he goes back to place 1. The office of mayor is vacant, because he's only serving the unexpired term.
I think you and I had our election versus canvassing, our dates reversed. You're assuming that the mayor is leaving office before the election, right?
That was the example I used,
Okay.
just so we could show that.
I'm talking
actually
about
need two
if the mayor
scenarios.
leaves office after the election.
Scenario 1, the mayor resigns prior to the election.
But she's
even
deciding.
if he moves to
Well, I
place
think that's what
7,
you're
he's still
describing right
elected.
now.
Absolutely.
You're still elected in
He's
place
Just-
still
1.
elected
Just so
in
everybody
place 1.
understands, we're for the fundamental, for the example, we're saying the mayor's gone
Today,
today.
right now.
Okay.
Prior to the
Now,
election.
to your situation,
Now.
how does it work if the mayor declines to accept the office, as she's indicated in her press, in her social media, that that's what she intends to do? So if that happens, canvass the election, she doesn't take the oath. The rest of the council members canvass, let's say Bob is reelected, okay,
In place 1.
in place 1, so
Right.
he's in place 1.
Right,
And so the council will then select a mayor pro tem.
right.
They may have an executive session. They have done that in the past. They may not. They may just come out and vote right then and there. But one of the first things I'll have to do is after the canvass election, we'll have to select someone to be the chair for the meeting for that night. And then the next order of business will be to select a mayor pro tem. They select a mayor pro tem, will then become the mayor.
Yes.
If that person takes the oath of office, maybe they'll refuse, who knows? I hope not. So then that person who's been elected the new mayor pro tem,
Yeah.
takes the oath of office, becomes the mayor.
Yeah.
Whoever that is,
Yes.
their former place on the council then becomes vacant.
Right. Right.
So then, let's just say it was 4.
I'm
Let's say
saying,
it's 4, then that place becomes
if
vacant.
they go
Then
back and
that
run
goes
for
to
place
7.
1 in the 2 years hence, they
This is
can't say that.
Yes, they can, because
Why?
they were elected in
To
that
place
place.
1, even though they didn't serve but a few hours in place 1, they served the whole time in place 7.
They still served in
I
that.
doubt
They
very
were
much.
They're still elected
They were
in that
elected
position.
in place
My
one.
guess is after serving in place 7, they're not running
But here's the thing, they were
Well,
voted
they might.
into place 4, but they served in place 7, but they were voted into, right? Is that
I'm
the point?
just worried that we may be accidentally imposing a burden on some office holder without intending to.
So if they
Well,
amongst
they'll
themselves
have-
decided that this was the mayor pro tem, amongst all of them, after they got all elected to the city council, let me see if I understand.
Right.
They all got elected to city council, amongst themselves, they decided number 4 was mayor pro tem.
Right,
That means that that person is mayor,
right,
because there is no mayor.
right,
So he or she moves to place 7, so
Right.
that means that place 4 is now vacant.
right.
Okay, so Bob still stay in at number 1? In
Yes,
that time, in
yes,
this-
and
in
Bob
this
is-
case, yeah, this case.
Yeah. And then that means then, at this point, then they choose
Then-
among themselves who they would like. They can say, you know what, Jason, we would like for you to be on city council.
You're right. Then in
But then at that
2 years, that could be the order of business, would be mayor, selection of mayor pro tem becomes the mayor. That spot then becomes vacant. They may elect a new mayor pro tem first, or they may say, no, let's decide who to appoint to fill that vacancy. Because right now, all they can do is fill the vacancy by appointment. They can't call a special election for the vacancy in the office of the mayor or for a council member.
Okay, Pete, what other scenarios can you imagine?
It's,
This is, I mean, to me, it's helpful to kind of see
Well,
it.
no, we may want to revisit that chart if we're talking about, if we're talking about reducing the threshold from more than 2 vacancies. To see, I don't know if anybody else has found it helpful, but it may be helpful
Yeah.
to diagram.
Can we ask the question that we've asked on several other items? What do other cities do?
some appoint, or they say they can call election or appoint. If they have the option, they tend not to appoint because,
Isn't any city with 3 or more year term has to have an election?
well, they do, they do. And,
So for a lot of cities, it's a moot
so there's
point.
a whole lot of examples, at least in the
Right.
Metroplex, because most cities are going to 3-year terms,
Right.
where they have to call special elections. So the answer to your question is some, for example, I looked at Saxon, because I don't think they have, no, they have 3-year terms too.
Well, I
But
thought-
some, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I go a little bit more research. Correct, some of them say in accordance with state law, which is a 3-year term, and then it would be.
Right, but that's if they have 3 term, because,
Some of them say if there is a vacancy in the mayor position, a special election is required. Some of them are silent.
right. So the question is, what do you want to do? What do you think is the best? To have an election to fill the vacancy of the mayor, or have election for all of them, or appointment, or a hodgepodge? That's really what you're talking about.
But I do not want to have special elections for any old council member because you could potentially have several special elections
Right.
in one season.
2 a year.
Well, yeah, I mean, and why? This is a city manager, government. Just how much impact, John, does the council actually have on the city?
Dilly squad.
Yeah, so, certainly, I'm thinking, and then 2-year terms. Remember, we had 2-year terms deliberately to keep the council responsive to the people. So I mean, that's why the state says elections for 3 years and longer. The state mandates elections because of the length of the term. But 2-year term, it's not like the public doesn't have a chance to address it within 2 years anyway. It's true.
And I'm gonna ask a question, but like Jason, please don't throw anything at me. And I don't know if this has anything to do with anything or if this is important, but, and then if we do have 2 vacancies, what if they are anywhere between places 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are district places? Which, not that they're more important or less important, but those are very specific.
You have a smaller appointment pool.
Exactly. I mean, that's another part of the equation that may or may not be something that we want to consider to ensure that the pool is as big as it can be every single time. Because if we do have someone moving over to mayor or mayor pro tem, you want to ensure that the biggest pool is being considered at all times, if we have to have a special election or not. Because if the vacancies happen to be, just so happen to be in the first four.
I get what you're saying, I just don't know if there's a clean way to
Yeah,
address that.
I don't know either,
And,
but.
and we need to decide if we're going to perpetuate the problem that was created in 2012, which was the way in which the mayor pro tem became the mayor, and that, I'm not sure that was always intentional as some might like it to be. So we can change it, we can perpetuate it, all kinds of choices here, but I have a feeling when you start, if most people knew that that was the case, probably a substantial percentage would be unhappy with it.
They voted for it.
Yeah, I know they voted for it, but I'm not sure they really understood because they didn't have the example of like we do at this point in time.
I didn't have Vanna White.
So I'm not.
Chalkboard.
Maybe,
Is there a?
maybe
I'll just
throw out something, I'm not suggesting, advocating, maybe something that the council would call a special election to fill a vacancy in the mayor if there was a year or more left in the term.
Like Eric
That's
said.
what I suggested.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like Eric had suggested.
I think that might be.
As Eric suggested.
Yeah, right.
I stole your idea.
And does that only apply to the mayor's seat, or could it be any candidate's?
That's up to you.
I prefer it only be the mayor for the reasons I said.
I do as well.
Placing too much expense and emphasis on what is relatively short term, and it's not to say just a council member, but it's just a council member.
Then again, the mayor is just a council member.
Yeah.
You're
as
right
well.
about that. It's very, very true.
No, he doesn't. I think that's probably, if you look at what's the best and what could be the worst, I think that's the best right there to solve the issue. Mayor pro tem would serve in the interim until you got to an
No,
election.
Until you
The
got
mayor
to
pro
the
tem
election.
will perform the duties, but not serve as the mayor.
Right, I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Perform the duties until the special election. That might work.
If it is that easy for this group to make an error in semantics of perform the duties, what do we think that our neighbors,
Good point.
that's their interpretation. Their interpretation is perform the duties
They're
and
the
serve
mayor.
as mayor. I mean, we've got to either make that clear or make it easier to really interpret.
I think if they know it's a short term, that they will have the opportunity to participate in the special election, it will become less of a contention.
Yeah.
So it's more of they are performing the duties until they can elect the mayor to be the mayor.
You have to insert a modifier, the interim mayor.
Maybe
The
it's
word interim
wording.
in there.
I would vote to say that they'd be addressed as the interim mayor.
Well, how's that different from mayor pro tem though?
So under this scenario, there would be no appointment of an additional council member. You would just be soldiering on with 6 members instead of 7.
No, you could have an appointment for one of the council members.
Just wouldn't
There's
have a
nothing
mayor.
to stop that. Once the mayor pretend was promoted to mayor, you still have 307 that tells you how to, fill vacancies, which you can do at any time. It's not clear when you have to do it.
But is that necessary when we're still talking semantics of performing the duties of office versus serving in the interim? If they're just performing the duties, it seems to me like you're better off with just 6 members, 6 council
There's
members.
certain things you want to have 7 people there to do.
But as long as the person's doing the acting as the mayor, but not being the mayor, there's no vacancy in that person's seat yet.
Yeah, that's the way I interpret it.
Okay, so,
Right, but if you
Who are
appoint
you going to
somebody, do
appoint,
they?
number 7?
right, I see, Jason. You're saying there's only going to be 6 people until the next election.
And that 6 people could get you into problems when a vote is taken and it comes out 3-3.
You know what is interesting, I suspect if there is a special election, one of these places would probably resign in order to run for.
Depends on how long it is before the next election.
And then you've got geography that is going to be
Then you're down,
important.
then you're down 2-5.
Exactly.
But the interesting thing is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the interesting thing is if you do appoint somebody for that interim period, you've got the big pool again, because you're appointing for place 7, which I would assume does not limit you to any district within the city.
That's,
Any place within the city.
So their appointment would only be till the next election to choose the mayor.
Yeah, it could be kind of anticlimactic.
okay, so again, let me just, so it's October 2014, mayor steps down as though we weren't having an election this May. We'd have to wait until May of 2015 to have a general election for the mayor. So in the meantime,
You wouldn't have a mayor.
we would have 6 members of the council,
Right.
or the council can choose based on 3.07.
No, okay, but you wouldn't want to have that, you wouldn't want to have both election and the mayor pro tem automatically become the mayor. That'd be
Okay, so then, but right now, that's saying that we could, right? Is that something we have to clean up? Either, let's see.
Well, it depends.
Depends.
It depends what you're going to do.
If we're going to do the special.
Let me suggest one thing. In 303, to help eliminate any confusion about the mayor pro tem, city council shall elect one of its members as mayor pro tem who shall temporarily perform the duties of mayor in the case of the absence or inability of the mayor to perform. So that would help.
That helps.
Otherwise, that language is fairly consistent with other charters. And then
That worked very close.
and then back to your question is you know, you could provide that, as Erica suggested, great idea. And then you could either you could provide that other members of the council be vacancy be filled by appointment.
But as Jason said, do you do it immediately or do you do it after the next election?
Well, if there's a let's suppose that you have a vacancy, and you say that if there's more than a year left in the term, you have to call an election.
Yep.
Okay.
For mayor.
Right.
No.
Just for mayor. Just for mayor.
Just for mayor.
Right.
Not any vacancy, just for mayor.
Just for mayor. So there's more than a year left in the next election, whether it's May or November, then you'd have, and they would be elected to fill that unexpired term.
Yes.
Not a new 2-year term, but whatever's left in that term.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if a council
But that's not
member,
what we're talking about.
Okay.
Why would you only make that for the mayor? Why not make it for any council member that leaves office 1 year or more before the next election?
I agree with that. But I'm thinking,
because we're saying that they should be able to appoint.
Well, but
Do you
is
want to
that,
have lots of
Lots of
elections?
elections.
well, basically, not many people leave office.
but Erica made a good point as well. If you have someone who's currently on the council who chooses to fill that spot, you're going to have a vacancy anyway.
You will have a vacancy, one way or the other. That's exactly right.
There's an election
They are
every
special
May,
election.
it's just a matter of whether the city participates or not.
And that's, what, 60 grand every time? So every
And that's
mayor,
the
or
question.
November, I mean,
They'd have
heaven
to
forbid,
resign.
you're gonna have
They
an
resign if
election.
they-
Well, we've already made it more expensive by the fact that we'd have an election for the mayor.
And
So I doubt if it'd be any more expensive.
Just because.
You know. But actually, what you want is, if someone's gonna resign from council to run in the next, run for mayor in a special election, could we allow also anyone that wants to sign up to run for the vacant slot that the guy has had to resign from in order to run for mayor? Could you do both elections at the same time?
According to charter right now, you can, right? If there are 2 vacancies.
I don't know, I'm looking down that in the table.
If there's more than 2 vacancies, then they can call elections.
We're not talking about.
But you're saying, and let me throw this out, if you're saying that if there's more than a year, that's what we said, left in the term, is that correct?
Correct.
Then we would, okay, so we
It's February of 2000.
we take Mayor Pro Tem and slide them over.
Okay.
No, you wouldn't do that. If you provide a vacancy and the mayor is filled by election, that's the process you would follow. If it's less than a year, then you wouldn't fill the seat. You
Right.
just leave it vacant.
Right.
February of 2014. If it's February of 2014, what do? The mayor resigns, February of 2014, and we have an election May of 2015.
Is it, that's a year,
That's
so.
more than a year.
Okay, so that's election. Okay, October of 2014.
Okay, in that void period, who's gonna be the mayor? Acting mayor?
Nobody,
Nobody.
nobody.
The mayor pro tem will take
Mayor
the
pro tem
duties.
is
The duties
starting at the
temporary.
Mayor Mayor Pro Tem
He
runs
will not be, he will
Quasi-
not be
quasi-mayor.
the mayor.
Okay, but I hear you, yeah, and I guess I may be confusing it, but I hear y'all saying that then you would have a reelection for the both vacant spots.
That's what I proposed here. The last thing I said is that
But
For
should I be
efficiency.
should I be punished if I'm the mayor pro tem and I slide over to help?
But you won't
I
slide,
can't go back.
You
No,
don't
you're not
slide
sliding
over.
over.
You're not sliding over.
You're not sliding.
You still
If-
have your spot,
Right.
unless you resign from your spot.
Only if
because
I
you
want to
run
run.
for-
Right,
To run.
if you
right.
want to run in a
Right.
special election.
So when the mayor pro tem
You have a
temporarily
protective
performs the
clerical
duties of the mayor,
You stay.
they're not taking that place on the
They
council.
will become
They're just
the-
performing those duties of running the meeting,
Right.
signing the ordinances.
And for efficiency's sake, if someone resigns in order to run in a special election for mayor, then I think it's economical to allow, to hold an election to replace that
That
person
seat.
in that seat at the same time, and allow people to sign up to run for that seat. So, I don't know if we can do that or not, I don't know if everything I just said is legal or possible, but it sounds like.
You're saying fill vacancies by election.
I'm saying if we have a mayor's, someone resigns and runs for mayor,
Right.
no one's going to resign and run for another spot on council. So I'm not saying that you hold an election, unless you wanted to say that for, if it was more than a year away, you probably would want to have, if the council wanted to do that, let them do it. It depends too on whether or not they want to go on with just 6, or whether they'd like to have, the other slot there.
I don't,
Because if
Do
someone
we have a-
resigns and runs for mayor, there's still only 6 people on the
do
council.
we have a
They'll fill the
resign
blank
to run
spot.
provision?
Do you have to resign if you run for another council place?
Yes, you do.
Boards and commissions have to. I don't think elected
I don't-
officials
But that's
have
state
to.
law.
That's a
No, there's not.
Laura
I
and
think-
Mayor didn't resign.
I don't
and they-
think elected officials are required to resign to run for another office.
It only,
Boards
it
and
applies to
commissions.
three officers with 3-year or greater terms. But
Adam Madrano did not have to resign.
Yeah,
from
right,
the school board
exactly.
to run for city council.
Yeah. I
Oh, but
think
who just resigned from city plan? Oh,
that's
no, he
different.
didn't.
Boards and commissions have
You have to,
to.
boards and commissions
That's for
too.
any election,
Yeah,
it's not in
okay.
the city of Richardson.
So if you're a city council member, you want to run for
The
a
mayor in a
vacancy,
special election.
you lose, you maintain your seat.
I believe, that happens right now when people who are senators run for president and they don't make president, they're still senator. That's the way it is in most every state.
yeah, we have a resign to run provision for board and commission members, but we
Only.
don't have it for council.
Correct. So
So
we're
you could-
talking about a false premise here.
But can your name be on the ballot more than once in Richardson?
You
You're not
you
running
wouldn't
for
be
the
on the
election.
ballot.
You're
No,
not
the
running for
answer is
any
no.
place,
You're in a
you're running
special
for-
You can only be on the ballot for one office,
Everybody
For one
comes-
office in one place.
Well, wait a minute, everybody comes up at the same time.
one place.
You're talking about a
Because you're
general
not
election or a
running for
special
mayor pro
election?
tem.
That's that.
General
One place.
election. I'm talking about is on general election every 2 years, everybody runs.
Yes,
So if you sign up to run for place 7,
Yeah.
which is the mayor's spot,
yes.
you're automatically excluded from your
Yes.
old
Right,
spot.
but you're still in that
Yes,
spot
that-
until the
that's
election
Until
and
the
somebody's
election.
sworn
Right,
in.
exactly, but you can't.
So
your
nobody's
name-
had to resign.
No, they don't have to resign, but it's, in essence, it's resignation, because you're not gonna be elected in that position anymore. If you win the new position you signed up for.
But there's
But
never a
we're-
vacancy.
Right, we're talking about the special election, which is
For-
held on an odd year. If you want to run for that, if you want to run for the mayor's slot,
In a
your,
odd period of time.
your term is still not up till the next year. So if you lose, then you get to go.
It'll be November or May of the even year rather than the odd year.
So if you want to run as mayor, you have to be a city council first. And the qualification.
No.
For the special election, no,
No.
be any qualified person.
Sure, you open it up.
That would be the point of it.
It still sounds good to have the election.
I think everybody agrees with that.
So what is our hangup with this?
Your hangup is you're trying to have an election of the council member also at the same time.
Would that hurt?
And the problem is, if you say elect a special election for a council member also, then what happens if a council member resigns and the mayor doesn't resign? Do you have an election for the council member also?
Yes,
All
if
6 of
there's
them,
more-
we're just gonna have special elections?
If it was more than a year out and you needed to have,
Maybe you were
and
very
you
simple
felt necessary to
correction.
have that member, I mean, if
Well, the way the charter's written, we don't have a
Instead of 50
choice.
written out, it needs to be
right,
100.
exactly.
Okay, and
Is that a bad thing, I guess is what I'm asking.
Some of, you have it in numbers, but not
I don't
written
really
out.
see the problem
the
on
first
2-year
line.
terms, why council members just can't be appointed to fill the seat, considering, as you
Dollars.
pointed out, how rare it is.
It should
That's
be-
true.
I
So-
mean,
The
trying
dollar
to
amount
solve
is
a problem
correct?
that really isn't a
The
problem.
$100?
I think so.
It just should be in letters.
Well, you're quiet down there.
Well, I like your idea with the special election for the mayor, not for the council. That can be appointed, in my opinion. But I do like the special election for the mayor's position if it falls within a certain period of time before the next election. So that's my opinion. I reached about
And
30
that
minutes
certainly,
ago.
and that tends to be responsive to the comments and the other hall talk that we are getting regarding the direct election of the mayor.
Okay, were you gonna share with us, Peter?
No, I was just trying to, special election and what time period?
Greater
More
than
than
a year.
a year remains in the term.
And then you just leave the other council position open? Or they appoint?
They can
Right,
appoint.
appointed vacancy.
You mean if there's a resignation?
If there's a resignation for somebody to run for mayor,
But
But
it's
but
not
our
a
point,
They
why are
won't-
they
they
gonna
don't
resign
have-
to run
they
for
don't
mayor?
have to-
they don't have to resign.
they don't have to.
They only,
But if
they're only gone if they actually get elected and take the oath of office.
Right.
That's true.
And then that
So-
causes a
so-
vacancy.
Actually, hold that thought,
I
and then the
understand.
question, the fundamental philosophical the question is, the other places, do you want the council to be able to appoint that, or do you want them to have to call an election?
Just appointed.
That's the easiest
Appoint.
way.
Appoint.
It's
I
worked for,
work
what, 56, 60 years?
I think it has.
And that's the way it is, I think, in all the other 2-year term cities, they normally appoint.
That process has not been used very often.
No,
It's only a catastrophe when it happens.
well, yes.
Do not jinx us.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
so,
Do we need further clarification on the mayor pro tem, that they are not serving, they're not serving as the mayor, they are serving temporarily? I mean,
right.
maybe just the word temporarily will do it.
Temporarily
Right.
perform the duties
So-
of the mayor.
Which is the definition
So,
of mayor.
continuing with that thought, what I say, we still strike that last sentence in 303, and we add temporarily after who shall. And then what I'd like to do is come back to you
Some language.
with some language,
Yeah.
That's good.
okay?
That's good.
Pete, is it the last 2 sentences in 303 that would
Yes.
remain struck?
Yes.
Okay, that's not fair.
Pete, while you're changing the language, could you also do something? about
Well, no, wait,
402?
let's back up. Why would you strike the next to last sentence?
The upon a vacancy in the mayor's position, the mayor pro tem shall
Yeah,
fill
that-
the
That is-
unexpired term.
That's not what we're saying anymore.
Yeah,
We're
we-
saying
Right,
we're
you
gonna
would
have a
strike
special
it.
election.
Keep it
Right.
strict.
And-
Yeah.
Correct, and then you would also strike the mayor council's pro tem council position
Right.
and becomes vacant.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Got it.
In this scenario, absolutely.
Got it.
As I was saying, in 402, could we clarify that, well, basically what we're saying is someone who's acting as the mayor retains their original place because they're not the mayor. I'm
Well,
not
that's-
sure there's no confusion there.
If, right now, the mayor is in place 7,
Yes.
so what you're saying is place 7 remains vacant until
Right.
the special election.
So
Yes.
you want me to,
Nobody switches.
you want me to
positions.
clarify the language, temporarily performs the duties but does not
Become the mayor.
assume the office, okay?
That's in the
Yeah,
office.
because what John just said is important. Okay, so somebody resigns in August and the special election will be in November. For August through November, the mayor pro tem is acting as the mayor, but we're not appointing anybody to place 7. So in fact, we are running with 6 people until the special election closes. And if that's what we mean, that's fine. I just want to make sure that's what we mean. Because Jason had brought it up earlier. Are we going to replace place 7 or not? And the answer is, we're not going to replace it by a pig. We're going to wait for the election.
It's 6 months. We're all saying that we can make it 6 months with 6 people.
John, is that feasible?
Now, are you,
Yes, anything, you can do anything for 6 months.
does everybody agree? Because I think that's the maximum that we're talking about.
The available election times are much reduced as to what they were before, so you deal with what you have to deal with.
And our neighbors, the constituents get to 6 months to be able to get their say.
So do we need to actually say that the council won't fill place 7? Because 307 is still there about filling vacancies, and it doesn't say anything about not filling
I'm gonna
place 7.
rewrite that.
She's gonna rewrite it.
So
with the new language.
because right now, it doesn't say anything about not filling place 7.
Right.
So we're saying if there's more than 6 months left in that term, then there's gonna be a special election? Or what are we saying?
More than a year.
More than a
More
year.
than a year.
Where'd the 6 months come from?
Every 6 months.
She's talking about how often.
How often
Oh,
election could
election.
be. How often
Okay.
election.
Yeah.
So I understand concepts is that, special election for the mayor if there's at least a year or more than a year or more left, and the others be appointed by the council.
Yes, that is correct.
I agree with that.
All right.
And there won't be any appointment in place 7 because we're going to wait for the special election to fill place 7. So there will be a period, although you may not write it this way, that there'll be 6 council members.
Right. And I'll rewrite 303 to add some clarifying language that the mayor pro tem while performing the temporary duties of the mayor doesn't become the mayor.
Do you want to call him interim or acting?
No, no, that'll make it even more confusing. I don't think.
No, the way it's phrased right now is pretty clear that the person is, is assuming the powers, but you didn't, well, just about, but is not the mayor. If that person became the mayor, we would have said that person becomes the mayor, but we're not saying that. Perform the duties.
So in theory, if it's a ribbon cutting or any kind of event, you're still referring to them as mayor, any ceremony, referring to them as mayor pro tem.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, the most important thing to me is that the state of Texas, in case of emergency, allows the mayor as head of the government to assume certain extraordinary powers. And I have to presume that we say the mayor pro tem assumes the powers of the mayor. That also devolves on the mayor pro tem, that the governor of the state authorizes him or her to be the person who can declare a state of emergency, as Bob Townsend did several years ago on the mosquito thing. And so I'm assuming, Pete, that the mayor pro tem acting as the mayor still has all the rights that the state gives in case of emergency to the mayor.
Correct.
Even though we call him or mayor pro tem,
because
that person still
because
considered the head
pro
of the
tem
government.
temporarily performs the duty of the mayor in the absence of the mayor.
Okay, I think we beat this up pretty good. My recommendation would be Pete, if you would clarify, let's look at 3.01 all the way through 3.07.
So I guess my question
And
would
let's
be,
make sure we're all on the same page.
is 301 okay, making sure we get the period back in there?
Yes. Yes.
Because you decided that you didn't want to change the term limit.
No.
They're untouched.
No one's interested in that.
So 301 is okay, making sure we get that period back in there in that third line. Or the fourth line, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, 3.02.
Are we voting on these individually?
No, we're just, he's recapping, and then we're gonna make one vote for all of section 3.
Well,
Article 3.
But he's gonna rewrite them, so we're gonna see
Well,
next time. He's gonna make some changes.
What I would suggest is that we get a motion to approve 301, 302, 304, 305, 306,
Hold on.
There's some comments on
304, I
304.
gave Amy a comment on 304.
which is,
Instead of $50 in writing, it's $100.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
100.
What's the comment?
oh, I got
She
it.
wrote 50,
Wrote out,
F-I-F,
100.
Spelling out the word.
spelling out the word 50
Before 100?
instead of 100.
Right.
Miss AP style?
No, it's,
It
No,
says
no.
50
It
It's a
says
typo.
50.
Typo.
It should be
in
100.
letters and words.
Oh, that.
okay.
That would've been a good thing to have in the charter.
Okay, as I was saying, 301, 302, skip 303, 304 with the 50
change,
changed to
right.
100, 305, 306, skip 307,
Right,
308,
yeah.
309, 310, 311, 312, 313, 314, 315.
I have a 314 question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this might be a first do no harm, because 314 doesn't have anything, but on page 14, number 7.06, we also state that municipal court clerks administer oaths, so do we want to put them on the 3.14?
No, because it's more appropriate in that section.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
And then what I'll do is I'll bring back a rewrite of 307 and 303.
So do we want to have a vote on those that are
Not-
non-offensive?
Not 307, 303?
Yes.
I move approval of those sections just mentioned all together that will be not subject to rewrite.
A second.
With the one
Motion by
alteration,
John, second by Kim.
As amended.
with the one alteration of 50 to 100.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
right.
the-
As revised, just
And-
period.
As revised.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'll second it.
It's already been seconded by Kim.
30.
All right. Show of hands, all in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay.
So Pete, on 402, do we need to do anything? We don't need to do anything now about place 7 in the mayor, because there will never be a confusion over what place anybody's in, right? The mayor pro tem will stay in his or
Correct.
her place,
Correct.
and there'll never be any confusion.
Correct.
Okay, I have a question.
Did you catch any AP or any of that other stuff?
Well, I wonder if for reading purposes, it says the second sentence on the second line,
Of which section?
that's 402, I apologize. Council members in places 1, 2, 3, and 4 shall reside in their correspondingly numbered districts and shall remain in that district for the period of time? Or and remain, because I think it doesn't read right. I think it needs a shall, and shall remain in that district.
It sure doesn't need a that. Oh, sorry.
Why, if it didn't have a that, we're district.
I don't have a problem with it either way.
Corresponding
It's a
number,
shall.
you don't think it needs one? Okay,
No.
that's what I wanted to ask. Okay, good.
Well, in 4.01, the second sentence, all boundaries described in such ordinance are the center lines of the designated streets. Well, we're taking out the colon, that's good, because those designated streets aren't there anymore. But would it be helpful to say the designated streets in the ordinance? Because I'm not sure the way it reads, and it'd be clear to the casual reader that we're referring to the designated streets in the ordinance, since we haven't referred to streets before that.
But it says established in the, by ordinance
Yeah,
of the
that's right.
city of
And
time
the
to
ordinance
time.
is defining the streets, but it doesn't say the ordinance is defining streets. You have to infer it.
Pete, was the boundaries fixed at the centers of the streets?
It has from time to time. I can't tell
Because
you right now.
I know
what
that
it
the
is.
difference between District 3 and Place 3 and Place 4 runs down the center line of Cottonwood Creek.
You know, actually, in hindsight, we actually don't need that last sentence,
Well, that's fine, let's yank it out then.
because the ordinance will describe it, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is,
describe
yeah.
Yeah, so can we just delete that second sentence? Oh, I don't get any credit for that?
You get a cookie.
She's brilliant.
Great job, thank you.
So in 401, we'll take out that all boundaries described in such ordinance below are the center lines of designated streets. You're on a roll, Bob.
We doing it, 4.02?
Luke, is that cap, that should be a lowercase c.
Which one?
Council members.
No, it's the beginning of a sentence.
Oh, beginning of sentence, thank you. I'm paranoid
You're
about
getting
it.
a little too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
On 4.04, should we not put on the 1, 2, 3rd line, 4.04, and at least 21 years of age? Or do they have to only be 21 years of age? Kind of limit, yeah, I was just thinking.
Only 21-year-olds.
Only 21-year-olds can.
Actually, that might make a great council.
Whee!
It would be memorable.
It would,
It would be like crazy, like all the time.
like all the time. Like I'm sure.
I assume the state code says at least 21, because the state code refers to this someplace, doesn't it?
But at least.
Yeah, I assume it does, because I think you're right. Why say something you don't literally mean?
I think at least would send a strong message to 21-year-olds.
I think so too.
We're watching them.
Yeah, that's right.
Jason, we're relying on you to raise your
Because
kids'
you're probably
right,
the youngest person in the room.
James, Kate, this is what you have to look forward to.
That's right. This is for you.
Okay, anything in 4.05?
Okay, Pete, on the top of page 8, first sentence of, or the petition must comply with all, 4.06, petition must comply with all respects of the requirements of this charter and state law. Is that one of those?
Still on page 1.
Page 8 of mine, but Constitution and laws of the state of Texas, is that one of those or not?
Yeah, the pages, if you looked at the one Shannon did,
Oh,
the word,
it's
it's different about
Sorry.
2 pages off, I think.
Sorry.
Who are you asking a question, by the way?
Okay, so it's, so 4.06, it's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line into, it's the petition must comply with all respects of the requirements of this charter and state law. I'm asking Pete if this is one of those Constitution and laws of the state of Texas moments. This charter, Constitution, and laws of the state of Texas, or is it just requirements of this charter and state law?
I read state law to be inclusive of the Constitution.
So in that sense, it's just there. Okay.
Because if you're going to change it to say this charter, the Constitution and the laws of.
Okay, moving along quickly, 4.07, 4.08, and 4.09.
On 4.08, and this is just a matter of being nitpicky, I know that we are defining council member and council space member as the same thing. But here we're spelling in line 1, council member, 1 word, line 2, line 3, council member, 1 word, line 5, council members, 2 words. So we're not even consistent in the same paragraph.
And maybe a typo, my point.
It could be, I caught it in other sections, but it may
Could
not
at
be up
least,
there.
since obviously our definition allows us to spell it either way, but does it look ticky-tacky if we spell it 2 different ways in the same paragraph?
Yeah, I was trying to be council space member, which we all.
That's what
So-
I think the majority of them are.
So,
So can we space those council members in the
Yes.
first 3 lines?
But there's one, it's line 1, line 3, line 4.
Well, there's a line 4, thank you.
So everywhere where it's council member, one word, you want to space it.
2 words.
Because I think that is the majority of usage.
Anyone want to make a motion to accept Article 4?
I will move that we accept Article 4 as amended. Do I need to list the amendments?
401, we're striking that last sentence.
That is correct.
We're adding an at least 21 years of age in 404.
Yes, that's correct.
In 408, we're
Changing
taking council member to 2
council
words.
space member. Right, okay.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Bill, second by Gerald. Any further discussion? Show of hands in favor, please. It passes unanimously. Brings us to Article 5. Recall of mayor and city council members.
Mayor should be lowercase in 502A, third line.
Is there a comma needed in the second line after the qualified voters of the city, comma, a petition addressed to the city council of the city of Richardson demanding the recall?
Normally there would be at the end of the first subordinate clause. So yes.
For the question of recall, the mayor or council member shall be submitted to qualified voters of the city.
Comma, a petition addressed to the city.
Yes.
A petition addressed to the city council of the city of Richardson demanding recall of the mayor lowercase or a council member shall first be filed with the city secretary, which petition shall, do we need another comma there?
And you would normally have a comma before that which, for which petition. We deleted the
I
comma.
think that comma was deleted by.
Yeah.
But we would normally have it in front of which.
Yeah, I think it was really by accident.
Yeah.
Okay, put the comma back in. Which petition shall name the mayor or council member whose removal is sought, comma, and contain a complete statement of the grounds for which the removal is sought.
Is there some place where the grounds that you can seek someone's removal are listed, or can you just mix?
I think misconduct is what it says.
That's it, so it's
I
like, we're recalling them because they're left-handed.
Because we were talking about malfeasance, I think at one point.
Yeah, there's a,
That's,
I think it's a, do you know which section it's in?
no, I don't. Well, I remember
It
it was
doesn't
talking.
matter.
3.06, you can remove any member of the council willful violation of any provision of the charter shall constitute official misconduct and shall authorize the council to remove that person.
Right, but that's not for the citizens to have a petition to remove somebody.
No, actually, that's exactly right. Simply the city secretary presents it to the person who the petition is aimed at. Then that's it. And they give that person the opportunity to resign, and if they don't, then there's an election. But I don't think there's any limit on why the petition can be done. Right. I don't think there is. I don't even know if it's worth bothering to find it. If people want to have a petition to remove somebody,
I was just curious.
are we up to 502 yet?
Sure.
We are in five.
Yeah. I would note that 502H is another place we're talking about potentially replacing the mayor. And I just want to make sure that the language is there is consistent with what we have just recently adopted.
Good job. Now you deserve it.
Thank you.
The catch of the day.
I mean, it says, as in the case of other vacancies, are we pretty comfortable with how we've defined the other vacancies that this is pointing to the same process without any confusion?
Well, what H was saying is if a person is sought to be removed, resigns,
Yeah,
then the election on the recall is not required,
yes.
and the vacancy is filled by the council as in other cases of vacancy, so you default back to
Yeah, I
the
just-
section.
Yeah, I'm hoping it said that, I just want to make sure
Right.
there wasn't
No.
something
No.
about that, since we
No, I
hadn't
was-
really thought that there's
I
other
was
places.
concerned we haven't got you.
Yeah,
Would it be beneficial to put there to refer back to 3.03?
The only problem with that is
It
the numbers
changes.
change over a period of time.
True, true.
Or
It
would
says
you
as
insert
in-
the
would
no
you say-
election
Other cases of vacancies, I think you're good.
on the recall?
I would
shall
say
be
no
necessary.
recall election would be
Yeah,
necessary.
no recall election shall be necessary. Yeah.
That's a good idea. On H, add no recall.
not to confuse it with the
Right.
mayor resigning when they're supposed to be an election.
That's a good catch.
So I have to share my cookie with him?
No, you get full credit.
Is the reference to council or should it say city council?
Sorry? Oh, sure.
In H, should it say city council or is council?
If the mayor or councilman in question resigns.
Shall the vacancy be filled by the council or by the city council?
We defined that it's all one and the same. Yeah.
Well, how would the council fill the vacancy by calling an election?
No,
To fill the mayor's seat, if the mayor
If the mayor,
resigns,
yeah, if the mayor
then
is
you
a
go
subject
into that
recall.
process.
Right, yes, ma'am.
now, just to be clear, if there's less than a year to go in the mayor's term, then the mayor pro tem will act as mayor for the remainder of the term.
Will temporarily perform those duties.
That's
Well, act is a valid synonym. We didn't actually say that in that discussion. And I just wanted to make sure that we all agreed to that. Sorry?
You're losing your cookie.
That was a pretty good catch. I think you still got it.
Okay. You want to switch names?
Yeah, that was that switch.
Temporarily, you have.
Okay.
On line 5 of 5.03, therefore needs an E. And then line 2 of 5.04, 3 needs a parentheses, number 3, numeral 3, parentheses.
Where you at?
5.04,
Okay.
second line, person's election
Oh.
or within 3.
Just like on the third line, where it's right.
Right,
We should
That's
also,
right.
we should also note on 504 that Mr. Chenoweth provided
Yes.
his opinion with regard to placing time limits on the recall.
Recall. Very good.
So why don't we go ahead and talk about that?
Well, before we do that, is there is file filled? That's got no recompetition for the field?
What?
Oh.
Oh, shall be, is
I
it
think
gonna
it'd
be
be
filed or
filed.
filled?
Where?
No recompetition, 5.4, oh, 4,
petition has to be filed.
filed again, so
I'm sorry.
FILED.
That's not acceptable.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Cool.
I think Gerald gets the cookie.
Bill can have it.
Well done.
I'm sorry, Bill, you were about to say something.
No.
All right, that brings us through Article 5.
We're looking at Mr. Chenoweth's comments about,
Recall.
Right.
we put in some time.
Does everybody have a copy of Mr. Chenoweth's comments?
Yeah, Amy passed them out.
So let me just say, he says, the suggestion that recall be limited to only specific time periods should also be removed. There is a high enough bar already, 10% of the voters, to prevent needless actions. Creating these time periods only adds protection to the council members. It does not expand the rights of the citizen. It erodes the rights of the citizen. This is not the purpose of the city charter. While I think most of you probably have good intention concerning reviewing the charter, it has been executed.
I think that one paragraph kind of
Yeah.
deals
Yeah,
with
that's-
the rest of the section.
Yep.
I would say we have to balance the needs of the citizens and the needs of the government to have some stability in order to pursue the public good. And if we allow recall elections, as we've already seen, someone with money
Yes.
can get a petition drawn right up. And I think the limits that we put on previously provide for the possibility of doing a recall. But frankly, the threat of a recall is often all that's needed to cause change of behavior. If we allow recalls to be every 2 weeks, what's the purpose of that? Plus, is it sensible financially to allow a recall with 2 months to go in the term? Doesn't make sense.
But the utility of that alone would probably deter most people from doing
Yeah,
it.
but why even, I don't think we're denying the citizens, what does it say, any protection. Okay?
And on the front end of that, the 6 months after election gives an opportunity for that person to perform
Yes.
and make it, and folks can make a determination after that 6 month period of time, whether it was a good job or a bad job during that first 6 months. Earlier than that, you're really electing, or you're really going for an election on somebody that hasn't had an opportunity to do anything.
Right.
Quick question, and I think we've got this covered by the way we changed section 3, or by the proposed changes of section 3. But it does say within 3 months after an election. Do we need to add or appointment? Or I think election covers it, but I wanted to see what everybody else thought.
Oh, you mean if we fill a vacancy with a
Exactly.
council member,
Exactly.
the citizens can do a recall at least 3 months after the appointment?
Yeah, that's probably a good suggestion.
Okay, so you want to say an election or appointment?
But is that the word?
Or was for any council.
That's actually not a bad.
Or just,
After
it covers
taking
everything?
3 months after taking office,
office.
or assuming office, taking
Mhm.
office.
All right.
That's a good.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Within 3 months after an election for that person's recall, it's referring specifically to the recall election. You can't have recall elections on someone more than once every 3 months. That's what that second phrase is referring to.
Okay.
So appointment isn't needed there.
That's right.
Okay, but you still have election 6 months after such person's election.
Correct, and there is when you want to say taking
Taking office.
office, however you want to say that.
Okay.
So what are we changing now?
I think we have to say taking office if appointed.
Or elected.
Person's election or taking office if appointed. Is that what you're saying?
There, one person can have 2 designations, they can be elected and they can take office, right?
How's that?
Well, when they're elected and there's a.
They don't really take
different time
office until they're
period
sworn
to take
in.
office.
They don't take
Right.
office until they're sworn in. Once they take the office, that's when their term begins.
But what we were trying to do is either they're elected or they're appointed, but they
Sure,
both take
sure.
office.
But Gerald was thinking that the election and the taking office were 2 different times.
So then it's 6 months after they take office.
After they take office, that's correct.
Either they were elected, because either they were elected or appointed.
You are correct, Gerald. It shouldn't be after the election, it should be after they take office.
Okay, so we're going to revise 504 to include the restrictions to applying to election or appointment to the city council.
No, not election, when they begin their term of office. However it's done, has to be
Within
That's
6
taking-
pointed
months
out, the
after
election
such
takes
person's
place.
Assumes office.
delete election there and then say assuming office or taking
Taking
office.
Because the
Because they could be
election is 2
appointed.
weeks no, the election could be 2 weeks before they take office.
Yeah,
It
Sorry,
is,
yes.
because you have to put the
Of
canvas
course, so
down.
we want it to be after
cut
they
this in.
take office,
Office.
not
We
after
think
the
the-
election.
okay.
Because all the ones I've seen are tied to an election,
Sure.
not to,
Yeah,
We're
I know,
forward thinkers.
but there is a gap there. When do you want to
it's
start?
a
the
matter
clock
of 2
ticking?
weeks, the whole point. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
does it really make that much? First of all, did you decide to cover persons appointed
Sure.
also?
Sure. That's why we said take office.
Taking office.
Because that covers both
Both.
elected and appointed.
That's why we started with the
We
taking
didn't mean
office.
to create this 2-week dilemma.
And And that's why I think I said initially that we use the takes office for the person if they are appointed, if appointed. And that would keep it consistent with the way it's been in the past, but account for that person who is appointed and not elected.
Is this a new section?
Yes.
I don't think there were any limitations before, were there?
No.
So in the current situation, if place 7 is appointed, there could be a recall.
Place 7 will have, oh.
There's
you
nothing
mean-
preventing a recall.
Correct.
Not right now.
Okay, Pete, do you have some good wording on that?
I'm thinking.
Section 5, 20 is.
Well, we're waiting to see if Pete is happy with how he's going to phrase 504.
We'll just fly right through.
Even if we were all 21.
Is someone over here with
I'm-
Josh?
And I want to double check it, but I would say after such person has qualified for the office. Because you get elected
You qualify.
and then you take the oath and then.
Yeah.
Elected or appointed, you still have to take the oath.
Exactly.
I like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then that should take care of both election and appointment.
After such person's qualification for office.
After such person has been elected or qualified, elected or appointed and qualified for office.
So you need to put all elected?
Let me come back, let me rewrite that and come back to you, because this is one of those, Gerald, where I don't like doing it on the fly.
I understand.
Okay.
I agree.
Do you want to go ahead though and let's approve 501, 502, and 503?
I think that's appropriate. Is that a motion?
And I got in 50, didn't have any changes in 501, 502, I had put the comma in, lowercase mayor, another comma, and then H, no recall election. 503, therefore, type, correct the spelling.
Okay, you got a motion, Marta? Got a second by Helena? Any further discussion? Show of hands in favor. Passes unanimously. We'll revisit 504. Brings us to Article 6, City Manager. Let me ask y'all this before we go.
Recess.
I was about to say, before we start, would you like to get a recess?
Yes, sir.
And, okay, and I'm also willing, I mean, it's 8 o'clock, I'm willing to say that we could go as long as you want. Just take a recess, and then come back before we start into this, kind of look ahead, and if we want to say we're gonna stop at whatever point, if you want to, this is good, I know it's going long. We could, May 13th is our next meeting, or we could even think about possibly having another meeting prior to that if we chose to in April, if we wanted to get through this. So just think about that. Just adjourn for a quick rest stop.
It's actually easier.
Make sure we
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Already.
Yeah.
We deleted 2 whole articles.
Yeah.
This is
Look
what
at all of
we This is Eric front loading, front end loading.
Yes.
Right there on the fly.
I don't see how you do it. That's why I do litigation.
Till the next, till that term is up.
Yeah, you clean up the mess, I know. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
No,
Thanks for the confidence.
12 years. If someone is appointed, special election to mayor, what term limit? Does he get 6 additional term limits plus that partial term?
No,
Because
this
it's more than
charter says that they,
50%,
if it's
it's
50%,
considered full term.
that's considered a full term.
Right.
But he can serve 1 year, that would still be in. Makes 12 years, whatever it is. You do that in time.
And then come back?
What? Special election.
We'll see you, Mike. Amy has escaped. Is anybody else cold?
I am, but I'm almost always cold. So I can turn the heat up if no one
Let's do it
objects.
while nobody.
I know. But yeah, no, just by default, I'm almost always there. I actually have a heater in my office. And I use it even in July and August. Because
That's when you get the most.
Well,
air conditioning.
I think the air conditioning, yes. Yeah. I actually do too, but I have blankets.
Is it humid in here?
I know, but we just turned up the heat
Cold.
because we were cold, so you lost your opportunity to object.
I'm taking
to
so
mine.
much Benadryl, it's hard for me to tell.
Oh, gosh.
My eyes.
Do you have allergies?
I was at Farmers Branch last night, and there must be a lot of cottonwood trees around there, 'cause, oh my God, I was just
Oh,
miserable
sorry.
with my eyes.
Is that why you couldn't see the socks you were putting on this morning?
Did you put 2 different ones on?
No.
Oh.
No,
I wonder if I should be offended by the bikini top
I
one
you know
with
what,
it on the
I've
socks.
already been chastised, I'm sorry. It's Robert Graham, they were colorful, I did not realize.
Oh. They provided a good laugh.
I'm glad I can
Thank
be of
you.
support for you.
So does Benadryl not make you drowsy?
It used to, but it doesn't, because I'm chewing nicotine gum, so.
Okay.
I guess that counteracts it.
We'll just get off. Oh, there.
Well, it's better than smoking or deal, I don't know.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, it's game won't kill, I'm not sure. I haven't read any reports yet.
Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you,
Got your
cookies.
name on it.
No, I got it. Say no this time. I'm not gonna dance
Got
with
your
you.
name on it. I'll have to clean up the dishes.
You know what, I do it at home, so what's the difference? I learned a long time ago.
Good idea.
He's good.
Good idea, Nancy. A little bit
We
of
had,
protein
tonight was Cub Scout meeting, Boy Scout
to
meeting.
sustain this.
Okay.
Always something.
See a Scout
at your
Master?
house.
How's it going, Sharon?
See a Scout
Yeah,
Master?
how are you?
Being head?
No, he's not head, he's den leader.
Then later, okay.
Den leader,
No, thank you.
PTA president, between those two, it's a full
Had a
time
early
deal.
dinner.
Aldridge.
Aldridge Ocelots.
Aldridge Ocelots.
They're ocelots?
Yeah, Ocelots.
One's in Margaret spots out.
I've never
I hold-
Ah.
Our oldest?
Oh, I'm sorry, oldest.
He's 6.
Six. Fun age.
It is a fun age. He's full of opinions now. It's pretty funny.
You gotta watch what you say too.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Watch what they watch and listen to. Like a sponge, they pick that up.
Yeah, there's a song that's been really popular. We've had to kind of, we had to lower the boom the other day and say, okay, you're gonna have to censor yourself. You're not gonna be allowed to sing
Be
this.
careful, man.
The term hot damn is used at one point. I don't want a call from your teacher or anybody, or worse, a parent. It's uncharted territory.
It's an attractive nuisance,
it's
as
a
we say.
swelling.
It's a blanket.
Oh, it's wonderful. I'll try it around here.
My mother-in-law makes those.
Beautiful.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I think you have a rope member. Do we need to go find him?
Oh, dear, back up, mine.
No, he's right there, right at the counter.
Oh, he's showing.
Are you guys ready? Oh, he's on his way.
No, that's fine.
Short as 5 minutes.
You knew me.
It was actually 11.
All right. What we got?
Okay, let's reconvene, bring this back to order, please. Before we go on into 6.0, we have presented from our community members or citizens, we do have a comment by Jay Hawkins and a comment by Arthur Westover, 2 citizens within Richardson. I want to make sure that you've seen that. I think we addressed that a little bit, but I think it's more of opinion than it is so much anything that we're going to change. But if you'd like to address that before we move on, we surely can. And then one of our citizens that was a visitor tonight left this in regards to 3.02. So let me go ahead and read this. It's a handwritten note, but it was passed up. It says, if a special election for mayor for a period greater than a year, how would that count towards our term limits? 6 or 7 years.
Spelled out in the charter.
So I think it's spelled out, but I just want that to go on record that that was addressed and that we feel like we have that handle on that.
Good.
It is addressed on the charter.
Good question.
Okay, real good. Okay. Any comments or discussion on any of those 3 citizen comments? Okay.
I have to tell you that one of them lives in my own house.
Very good.
My parents built.
Okay, Article 6, City Manager, and hey, we'll go through here and see how it goes. And if we need to do something different, we surely can, okay? Appointment of City Manager.
I had a question on 6.03. In the absence of the city manager, don't we have the assistant city managers to take over some of those duties?
Deputy city
I mean, the deputy city manager?
I mean, that's controlled by the administrative code, which has an organization chart and the duties.
So we don't,
And that may change from time to time.
so that's why we leave it out of here?
Yes.
Under 6.05, under B and under C, charter needs to be lowercase, I think.
Yes. I think so.
Yes.
It was sometimes.
Yep. I'm
Didn't
just-
touch them all.
I haven't changed it.
We will do it.
I know.
Did you, Shannon, did you change things?
Yes.
You changed things to what I sent you?
Yes, we've got a new version.
I got a new version.
No, the 4.1?
And they're in a different color, so they're easy.
Oh, gosh.
No, you did a great job.
Wait a minute, is that a different version than we have tonight?
No.
No.
No, you guys
I
got,
don't have that version.
no.
I have none of those things over in that column.
Oh, those are,
We sent out a Word version and the PDF.
Okay, well, I have the Word version, so
I
this,
have the Word version too, right?
no,
there.
no, but I printed this out like today, or, this
Yesterday.
week. So it's not what was on our thing today.
yeah,
Okay, so we're all working from the same version?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
But I just may have had the comments in a different way, because I printed it from my computer instead of she printed this from her computer. So it's just printed differently.
I just took what Amir, what Amy had left on the table.
Was that a Freudian slip?
Whoa, wow, what was that about, Bob?
Well, you could probably say that. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, God.
Fortunately, she's not listening.
All right. We're at 6.05.
We are.
We got charter, the capitalization has changed in 2 spots.
What's the other spot?
C and
K.
B.
Is B and K, is
And
B,
C.
I got B and K.
B and C.
Okay, and C, yes.
She had already got J.
Actually, it's gonna be changed in B twice
And
from what you
B.
looked at last time.
No, it's B and C.
Well, yeah, she's already gotten one.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm
Okay,
saying
fine.
from what
Yes.
you had before.
Yes, sorry.
I didn't realize she had gone through and edited that. That's why I sent it to her.
Okay, section 607 now becomes 606. No changes for 607, which used to be 608. Okay. We have a motion to approve Article 6 with the corrections stated.
So moved.
Gerald makes a motion, John seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimously. All righty. Article 7.
But this is a Pete question, and this is a matter of education of me. On 701, the city attorney has to be licensed to practice in the state of Texas. Okay, fine. The city attorney can bring in practicing attorneys who are practicing in the United States to serve in various capacities. Is any licensed attorney anywhere in the United States able to come in and do ad hoc stuff in the city?
No, well,
I'm just curious.
no, to practice law in Texas, you gotta be licensed to practice in Texas.
This doesn't say that, does it?
Note that it says litigation shall represent the city in all litigation. There's the possibility the litigation may be outside of the state. The city may have to engage an attorney from Oklahoma.
Okay, so that would be,
Just leaving it open.
that's
for
why
that.
it says the United States, that would be.
There could be a
other
case, maybe there
venues.
was some unique case that was in a
Sure.
federal court,
Sure.
and we hired somebody in Kansas, and what do they call it, Prohakivici?
Yeah, you don't have.
So
to
you
be
get special
licensed in
permission
Texas.
to practice in that court, so.
I mean, so there's no need to change this. It kind of jumped out at me that we would drag in anybody from the United States.
I think that's the old language, but I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
okay.
no harm in it.
Okay.
Okay, good discussion. Okay, 7.04 is good, or it looks to be good. 705 has been deleted. Changing our numbers.
I move to approve the entire section as proposed, as submitted.
Okay, got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jason seconds. Any further discussion?
In 706, it says all these guys shall qualify as a notary public. Do they also have to pass some state requirement to be a notary public? Just being in our charter isn't sufficient, is it? Doesn't a notary, I mean, Amy, you're a notary, right? Don't you have to take some oath and satisfy some state requirements?
No.
I think that's what.
She just said yes.
Well, I do,
That's how you
as a
qualify.
notary, but
I mean, that, as your fellow Joe Graffiti was here that night, and he advises that that section was in accordance with state law.
It's as if this charter qualifies them, and I thought there were other qualifications other than being in this charter.
Pay a fee, and I think you pay for some kind of errors and omissions bond.
I don't read that to mean that the charter qualifies.
No, I don't think you have to qualify to be one.
Oh, they should qualify themselves as a notary public.
Shall each qualify as a notary public.
Yeah.
They need to qualify as a notary.
Pete?
Another cookie.
Pete, let me ask you the question about the word practicing attorney. I know we've talked about that before. Basically, if you're a municipal judge and full-time, you're probably not a practicing attorney.
Yes, you are.
Being a judge,
You're handing down.
Like, you know, when we had that issue came up, somebody raised the issue about Judge Noah.
Yeah, I know.
If you're a judge, you're practicing law, and you're a licensed attorney, so
So it's a non-issue.
it's not an issue. I mean, if you want to strike practicing,
No, I just want to make sure we had it in here the right way, because I couldn't remember what you said about it previously.
Well, I don't know what practicing means. License means you're licensed, and if you're licensed, you can practice
You
law.
can practice that. You're eligible to practice.
So
Okay.
I don't know, Gerald and Jason, what do you think about it?
I think it's fine.
I'd say as long as he's handing down judgments, he's practicing law. I prefer to keep the language in there.
Okay.
So do no harm.
Okay. Motion for Article 7 to be approved.
It's
All right,
all-
we're done
We
now.
done? All right, I'm sorry.
And a second.
We're to vote. We have a second by Jason.
Second.
Let's vote.
All in favor, show of hands, please. All right, passes unanimously. Thank you for keeping me straight. Article 8.
She needs a cookie.
Not until she earns it.
No, cookies.
Section 8 was our minimal change section.
Right, so,
Yeah.
Kim just moved. And I second.
And you just seconded.
All right. so
Kim for.
Kim has a motion to approve as written, Article 8.
written.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
All right, Erica seconds. All in favor, show of hands. Passes unanimously. Article 9. Got a couple little deletes.
9B, the word powers needs to be italicized. I'm sorry, 9.07B. I guess I'm getting a little tired. Sorry.
Another typographical error.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I see.
9.07B just needs to be italicized. See how this is italicized and that isn't? That just needs to be italicized. Just a little.
Is that supposed to be a period or a colon after purpose and powers? Words like that.
Each one of them have a period after it.
Seen it both ways.
Well, it is consistent throughout.
Yes.
We're looking at 9,
Article 9.
9.11, C. I believe there's a D, DE that doesn't belong. The Civil Service Board shall be consist.
Should consist.
Should consist.
Good catch. Good cookie, Jeff.
Right.
What letter?
C, 911C.
Okay. 9/11C.
Shall be consistent, sure. why not?
All right.
Just real quick, on 912F, is there any more to the discrimination code? Any more, yet, or now? So race, color, sex, age, disability, religion, national origin, political opinions, is there LGBT, anything like that that needs to be added? No? Not to
Council
federal?
passes it.
Oh,
Or
okay.
federal law.
Or federal law
Federal or state law
requires.
supersedes
For
it,
now.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion to approve Article 9 as corrected?
I'll move.
Second.
All right. Gerald makes a motion. Second. Marta. Any discussion, Bill?
On 912F, or the new F, second line, in favor of any applicant, competitor, candidate, eligible, or employee. How are we supposed to read the word eligible in that case? That's an adjective in the midst of a bunch of nouns. Well, but I'm wondering what we're trying to say there. Are we trying to say applicant, competitor, candidate, whether eligible or employee? Is that what we're trying to say? Because you got 4 nouns and 1 adjective. So what were we trying to say in that sentence?
It's almost like there's a word missing,
Or next one.
or an extra one of those two.
Yeah, candidate eligible.
Not seeing anything that should be down.
What did it used to say?
That is,
That's
that's
what it
original.
says.
That's an adjective.
Yep, that's original.
Well, what do you suppose we meant in 1956?
I think this,
Well, you could say the eligible can do something, but then it's clear from the context what that's referring to. Who is eligible here, I'm not sure what it's referring to.
We can take it out.
I didn't take it out.
Yeah, we can take it out. Good catch.
We'll find out in a few years what it was.
Or,
supposed to be.
is it
Yeah.
or
That's something to do
eligible
with
employees?
pleasure towns.
Probably. Probably.
No.
Eligible pleasure grounds.
So 912, redesignated F, take out eligible.
I'll accept that as an amendment to my motion.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Did Marta second that?
I did, so I
Okay.
will amend my second.
Okay. All right. All, show of hands, all in favor, please. Passes unanimously. Brings us to Article 10, Civil Service. No recommended changes at this point until you get down to 10.02, I guess. C, yeah, C, you got a couple of capitalizations there, or one capitalization.
Is this where the word eligible came from?
I don't know.
List of eligibles.
Where?
Yeah.
10.03.
Section 1003.
It's a noun.
No. Huh.
What does that mean? Well, eligibles
What's
to
an
each class of
eligible?
service. But,
Oh, that, it is a noun in civil service terms.
no, well, but in a context where the meaning is clear, whereas in the previous article, it wasn't clear what it referred to because the use as an adjective came before the definition of it. So you shouldn't use it before you define it.
That would be true.
I think it's kind of archaic.
But, yeah.
I mean,
Does our
that's-
policy cover these guys? Let's see. What is that?
That's why I thought maybe it meant applicant, competitor, candidate, whether eligible or employee. Well, maybe that's what we meant.
Do we have to define what eligibles are?
Is this down the second?
Honestly, if you take out eligible as we did and just leave it in 10.03, I don't see a problem.
I don't either, because I think it's clear and
Yeah.
we're not
I
going to
agree.
discriminate
Okay.
if you're a candidate or applicant or employee.
I believe, Shanna, in 10.01 in the Word document, this is where it had an undefined link. You know, you have a hypertext link.
Under Article 9.
Where instead of Article, I think it was here, instead of Article 9, it says undefined hypertext link.
Okay.
But only in the Word document, not the PDF.
Wait,
Okay.
back up.
In the Word document,
Right.
there was some place that had an undefined hypertext link.
Article 9 was an undefined link. It's just something
It's just
that's
a word
hanging
thing.
there.
I don't know, we'll go back and confirm.
Yeah.
We'll clarify.
We just don't want to accidentally print that.
Exactly.
We can take care of it.
Mr. Chair, I will move to approve Article 10, as long as we can take out that undefined link and as proposed
All right.
for Article 10.
Second.
Second by Bill. Any further discussion? Show of hands in favor, please. Passes unanimously. Okay, Article 11, Budget and Financial Procedure.
Okay, so this is one of those where under 11.4, we talk about 11.4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth line, we talk about citizens. Is this where we want to talk about citizens or residents or?
Residents would make sense.
Which section?
11.04, the fifth line, we talk about, at this hearing, citizens of the city may be present and express their opinions instead of residents.
No, citizens.
It needs to be citizens?
Why?
Could it, because you don't necessarily have to be, reside, correct, in the city to
Right.
comment in the hearing.
So a corporate person can come. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, it doesn't
You
have
don't
to
even
be
have to be a
resident or
citizen.
citizen, it could be any.
Because you could be a business owner.
Right.
Okay.
You could be someone.
So you don't want to discriminate against business owners.
Maybe it'd
who
be
live
better
out in the
just
city.
say,
Citizen.
at this hearing, persons may be present and express their opinions
Well, that would
concerning.
be more accurate.
Okay, so then let's just
Yeah,
take out
persons.
citizens of the city and just put persons.
Persons.
Yeah, people, I like people better than persons.
Like people better than persons.
I do.
Interested parties.
Do you even need that sentence? It's a public hearing.
it's just all those people.
That's true, it is a public hearing.
Amy had a comment behind you, Pete.
Amy may get a cookie for that one.
What was it, Amy?
I mean, the whole paragraph is about a public hearing. Do you have to say that citizens might be, or anybody would be present to speak?
Oh,
She
yeah.
said just take out the whole
Yeah,
sentence.
but if you take it out, people are gonna go, oh, look, they're taking out our right to speak.
How about
I would
the public
specifically
may be
leave
present?
language
too.
about the right to.
I'd say,
I don't think
at
it
this
hurts.
hearing, persons.
Leave it in.
Just,
You
how about the
like people,
public?
you tell me.
As long
People,
as it's a public hearing, so long as you just say
The
the
public
public. The
may be
public
present?
may be present and express their opinions, and that way we're using the same word.
Okay.
good catch, the public.
Yep.
Amy, you still get your cookie if you'd like.
Exactly.
11, this is for Bill under 11.05 after, word after, do we need the word that, I mean the word the,
Where are you, Joe?
after the public hearing?
Oh, yes, after the public hearing would be good.
11:05.
Second word.
What are we doing?
Put 11:05 after the instead of after public.
Oh, got it.
Yes. Those are definite articles, those for. Yes, there you go. We'll make an English scholar over it. Try.
And we accept 11 as amended.
All right.
Did somebody add a comma? I didn't get that.
11:05, second line, or deletions, comma.
Okay.
Where you at? 11?
11:05.
You put in a comma after deletion.
I don't know if I do
Why?
that.
Because which follows, if you want to change it to that, you can use it.
Well,
I got it.
which in that case is not the beginning of a conjunct of a subordinate clause, it's simply a descriptive clause of additions and deletions. Perhaps you feel better if we change it to that.
6 in one act is in
Yeah,
the other.
I mean, which has two different uses, so this one I don't think calls for a
Okay,
comma.
take out the comma.
So what do you want to do? After the public hearing, after deletions, do we put a comma?
No.
No? So,
Some of us have no opinion on this, Pete.
All right, we have a motion without a comma. All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, okay. Marta, any further discussion? Show of hands in favor, please. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Okay, brings us to Article 12.
under 12.03, just in general, under this section, we need to go with the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas. So under 12.03, second line, granted under the Constitution instead of Texas Constitution and laws of the state of Texas.
Okay, so we were moving the first text, is what you're recommending?
And,
Okay.
and then take out the, under the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas.
Constitution and laws of the state of Texas.
Gotcha. That's pretty clean.
I think that's the only one. Other than what you already got.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve Article 12 with the suggested changes.
All right, Jason has a motion on the table. Did we get a second?
I'll second.
All right, John seconds. Show, any further discussion? Show of hands in favor, please. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 13.
I move that we approve it as amended.
Okay, got a motion by Martin, second.
Second.
All right, Gerald seconds. Any discussion? Show of hands in favor, please. Passes unanimously. Brings us to Article 14, submission of the referendum.
I have a question on 14.03A. So on 1403A, pass said proposed ordinance without alteration within 20 days after the attachment of the city secretary's certificate of sufficiency to the accompanying petition. Is certificate of sufficiency, is that now a proper noun? Is that a certain, or no? Is that like a specific, I don't know, Amy, is that like a specific
Yeah.
certification? No?
It is a certificate that she prepares and says, this is mighty fine.
Okay, so it's not like I didn't know if it was like a legal document. Oh, okay, okay, that's what I was asking. Yeah, I didn't know if it was like a specific legal document. Okay, that's all I need.
No, okay.
Was that sufficient?
I think that was sufficient.
I am hereby certified.
You should request a certificate of sufficiency.
May I have a sufficiency certificate?
Mr. Chair, under 1407, I think there's a capitalized charter.
There sure is.
Oh, boy.
Second word, second sentence.
Knock that C down.
Oh, got it.
Capital C.
Well, okay, on 1406, the third line, adopted by a vote of the people, by the people, for the people. Are we people? Are we residents? Are we citizens? Do we care who we are? Voters? Doesn't matter. Just
If you're going to change it to voters, it should probably be a majority of the voters, a vote of the voters. The majority of the voters would probably clarify things pretty well.
I agree with the attorney.
Who else is gonna be voting besides the people?
I kind of like the people too,
We did use
Isn't that all
people in
inclusive?
1401 at the very beginning.
Constitutional right
That's the pretty typical language.
People.
There we go.
to it. I like that.
Or we could use peeps.
Buy my peeps.
Easter's over.
Those are marshmallows.
Okay. Yes.
Leave that option up for
That's how you
future,
eat.
future elections.
That changes over time, the flavor of the peeps.
Okay. We have a motion to approve Article 14
With the revision.
with the revision. Gerald's got a motion on the table. Nancy has a second. Everyone in favor, show of hands, please.
Discussion?
You want any discussion?
No, but just.
All right, thank you.
For
There's no
appropriate.
discussion, raise your hand. All in favor? Thank you. Keep me on my toes, I appreciate that.
I don't want us to get caught in that, oh, y'all did this.
Okay, Article 16, election of taxes.
Does this now become Article 15?
Well, it
Right.
does, and I
Yes.
just
Yeah.
realized
Article
there's a
15.
renumbering. I caught the later two, I didn't catch that one, so.
Oh,
Okay, so that's
That'll
really,
have to be
Article
done.
16 is now 15.
Yep. And all of those.
Remember those carry through.
Not much left, is there?
In 1603, are business, personal property taxes and real estate taxes treated the same way on the calendar? Will we all do it at the same time?
Yes, they are.
So it's okay for us to use generic taxes?
Everybody good? Everybody good with the new 15?
I move approval of the new 15.
I second.
All right, Bill makes a motion, Helene seconds, any discussion? Show of hands in favor. Passes unanimously. Let's go.
You need a vote to accept the deletions,
Skip 15.
if we skip 15, if that's something wrong.
Mr. Chairman, you want to vote?
Yeah, I'm looking at it, I guess, in reality, we do, thank you.
I move that we accept the deletion of previous Article 15.
Okay, I have a motion on the table, McKeel to accept that. Jason seconds, any discussion? All right, all in favor, show of hands. All right, passes unanimously. Thank
While
you.
I'm at it, I move that we accept the deletion of Article 17 and 18 as recommended.
Okay. Got a motion on the table?
Second.
All right, second by John.
Who? Bill?
I mean, Bill, you too? Okay. Bill?
Switch nameplate.
Second by Bill. All right, any discussion? All right, show of hands in favor. Passes unanimously.
Now 17 becomes 16?
Yes.
Or, right, on a roll.
Okay, so the new 16.01, line 2, needs to read with the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas.
Yes.
Yep.
Line 1, 2, 3,
Which section?
6, the new
1601.
16.01.
It's a statute.
Yeah,
It's 4 times in
exactly.
1601.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in 16.01
So we're gonna say Constitution and laws.
of the state of Texas.
Yeah, it's a global change.
6 times.
And then in the second sentence, in the second, yeah, I mean, it's like 6 times in that first.
Something wherever.
3, 4, 5, 6 times.
In 17.01 and 17,
Begin on 1602.
1602, second paragraph.
Bless you.
And then in the new 17.0, sorry. Yeah, sorry, no, forget it. I will wait.
You're good. 16,
No, it's in another section.
So in former 19, then 17, now 16, Constitution and laws of the state of Texas, wherever it shows up.
There are 6 instances of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It's in the new 16.01 and in this new 16.02.
2 has one.
So 2.
Anything else in that?
all right. Anybody else have thoughts, comments, or a motion?
Move for approval with those revisions.
All right. Gerald makes a motion. We have a second. Jason seconds. Any discussion? Show of hands in favor. Pass it unanimously. Thank you. Okay.
In 17.02 at the very end, the part that was added, provided however, nothing herein contained shall be construed to mean that the city waives any rights, privileges, defenses, or immunities which are provided under the common law, capital Constitution, and the laws of the state of Texas?
Capitalized Constitution.
Yeah.
What section again?
I'm the new 17.02, page 43. The very, very last sentence that was added, so it's in bold.
I see. Thank you.
Capital Constitution and.
Capital Constitution
laws.
and laws of the state of Texas.
I don't have that. Am I on the right page?
It's a different page for you.
So you're basically deleting
Let's
general.
see, notice of damage or injury.
Deleting general and capitalizing Constitution.
Gotcha.
It's immediately
Former
before
1802.
execution,
Former
garnishment, and
1802.
assignment.
At the very end of the paragraph. In bold.
Here. Okay, there you go.
Oh, there we go.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Council Murphy.
No, that's.
And 18, formerly, I guess current 1701?
Now 7.
1701.
So we're in, the second line, I think there are too many C's in charter.
Yeah.
Unless you want this to be the
Jada.
CC charter.
Where is it?
I have it.
Second
David
line.
Bowie.
Yeah, right.
Now, which are these, Jada?
17.01.
Got it.
Okay.
We get a wildflower appearance.
But I think the one in bold is,
That would be
the old,
pretty cool.
no, the new 1704 liens on public property. You want it, the header in bold, correct?
Yes.
Don't you use a style for that in the word source?
Bold.
Yes.
1704.
What happened?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I move that we approve of those revisions. That new section 17.
Okay.
I'll second. I don't understand where.
Gerald, we got a second by John. Any discussion? All in favor? Nancy, you good? Okay, good. Passes unanimously. Okay, so now we're at the old 19, is that correct? It's
New 18.
New 18.
The old 19.02, second line, may therefore needs an E.
Which section?
The old 19.02, which is the new 18.02, second line, second word. Oh, no?
See vacation.
And are we sure we don't want to leave pleasure grounds under 19.04?
I think we need to revisit that.
That was one of the first things that we changed. Oh, the memories.
You're so innocent then.
Yes, they were.
Obviously, none of us have been to that pleasure ground.
No.
None of knew where it was.
We won't talk
Darn
about
it.
it if we've been there.
Maybe David Bowie can show us.
Okay.
It is.
Hearing no other recommendations, we want to approve the new 18.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by John, second by Mara. Discussion? Hearing none, please have a vote. All in favor, show of hands. Passes unanimously. Thank you. All righty. The old 20 becomes 19.
19.05, second line, votes should be voters.
Good catch.
Are you sure?
Votes should be voters.
And just to clarify, at least every 10 years means 10 years or less, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
It was basically a fallback position. The council could establish a policy, do it every 5 years, but if they didn't, the
That's
charter is
great.
going to force them to do it every 10 years.
On
Perfect.
19.03, under B, by report of a charter commission, so charter commission should not be capitalized. Is that correct?
Yeah, I
Kim?
guess not.
Really shouldn't sell themselves short.
This is true.
We're a charter review
Well, hey,
commission.
there's a capital C in charter, this charter.
Decapitalize everything but themselves.
Y'all,
We're humble.
20.03, there's a capital
Yeah.
C in charter, capital charter,
Mm-hmm.
same section.
Second line.
We're going to run out of lowercase c.
I'm gonna rap something out there in a lowercase c. Now I'm a big C.
Sesame Street?
I hope
No,
not.
some rap song.
I'm scared that you
Maybe
know
it was
that.
G, I was a lowercase G.
That's what happened when you were on the school board. It
Now
just-
an uppercase G.
You get exposed to things.
Mr. Chairman, I would so move that we approve Article 19, formerly Article 20, with the recommended changes and the amendments that have just been made.
All right, motion by Jason. Second?
I will second.
Second by Mara. Any discussion? Show of hands in favor. Passes unanimously.
We did better than you thought.
Yeah, I'm proud of this committee.
Yes.
It's the
Good job,
first
Mr.
part is
Chair.
really the bulky one. And
With
after
media.
that,
Yeah.
it's the meeting part, and then we kind of quiet.
Okay.
Well, it's what other people under.
Do we need to, that gets us through all the articles for the evening, and then on the agenda, discuss global changes to words, phrases, capitalizations within a charter, or have we covered all that? Have we went through that? I think that's captured. Okay.
Will you talk about our next meeting? Just to
Discuss
confirm?
plan review of this charter for next scheduled meeting. What did it say we're supposed to do?
May 13th, wrap up,
Aw.
final review approval.
And if
We have
needed
two
an
sections, at least 3 sections Pete's gonna redo, right?
Yes, that is
Right.
correct.
At least 3.
Yeah.
2
If
and
we
3,
need
and then.
to have a second one beyond that before the June council meeting, what date would that
Well,
be?
you need to also talk about the report, what's going to be in the report,
Right.
Or to prepare for how, yeah.
so.
Do we, go ahead, Pete, I'm sorry.
No, that's something you need to talk about, because what I want to do is get those changes to you, get all these changes made, take a look at it one more time, make sure we didn't miss anything. And then we need to talk about the report, what are we going to put in the report, and we're gonna have to get the report written up.
Can we talk about that tonight?
Sure.
It's okay to talk about that?
Yeah.
One thing, when you send us the updated versions, can we just have one copy of the versions?
Yeah.
You want a clean copy?
Well, no,
No.
what I'm saying is there's two different versions that came out,
Right.
one early, one late.
I sent a Word, I didn't send a PDF, so all I sent was a Word, and
Right.
staff sent you both.
Nancy, do you have a comment?
I'm curious to know whether or not we should even think about how it's gonna be presented on the ballot. I mean, are there ways that we can recommend that it be divided? Or do we do it in one? I think you said earlier that it was gonna be in sections.
I mean,
That's up to this council, isn't it?
I mean, that's gonna take some time, and that's, I don't think that's something that the council was expecting to do, is come up with actual propositions, and that's gonna take some time. Well,
Yeah.
I will be doing it.
While we're at the beach, you're gonna,
No, we'll be doing that before they call the election, because that'll be part of the ordinance. The ordinance will have the propositions, and then the red line text also is a part of it, so.
I'm concerned that if it goes in sections, where some pass and some don't.
Well, I mean.
It happens, yeah, and
Yeah, and
That's the way it works.
Well, and I think, I might just be tired tonight. I'm having a hard time thinking back over all the changes. But we had very few consequential or significant changes. I believe most of them were cosmetic. Most of them were
Semantic.
language, yes.
Language.
Other than the
Council election.
the council election, the article for the charter review, I'm having a hard time thinking right now about any that, yes.
It was all supportive
Really
of what the
substantial.
public was really
Mhm.
looking for, or what they wanted in 2012.
So in answer to your question, it will take some time to write the propositions, but we'll write the propositions so that we won't have a gap. So if there's multiple sections that have to be changed in order to accomplish what the intent was, then it shall this section, that section be amended to provide for.
For what you learned the first one.
Right, so, and then to the extent we can do a proposition to make global changes, so we only have one proposition, say all these be changed to correct grammar and capitalization, then we'll do that. So there may be a few of those that we can group together, because we want to have as few as propositions as possible, but each proposition is going to be on the same subject matter. And it will amend several sections at the same time to make sure that the whole subject matter gets carried through. Because you don't want one section to be approved and another one not if both have to work. So it takes some time to go through it. Yes. I know.
But basically, of our jobs, we've got two major things to still do. Approve the final draft of our work, and then help devise or create the presentation or the whatever.
Not the propositions, but
No.
but the report.
The report, thank you,
Right.
the report to the council, right?
Carol, do you have
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Anticipating that, either we need to probably add another meeting, or unless you're gonna take a stab at getting us something, so we can review it at our next meeting, or how do we do that?
Now, there are a couple of things about it in terms of, it's not technically a report, but I have been keeping kind of a PowerPoint summary as you've gone through the articles that kind of bulleted listed on each slide what the changes were. We can certainly have that ready at the next meeting that you can see, is that summary accurate? And that could be a starting point for a report. I don't know, Amy, if you kind of say, I mean,
I think that would be good.
I think that our, kind of the framework is there that we can then refine.
And because we need to discuss this in the public meeting, and I'm thinking if we just have one more meeting, maybe that's not enough.
I agree with Gerald. I think we may need another meeting in addition.
But I think think Shannon and Amy can start with,
I think
we met
we can,
on these days, and
Mhm.
we had public hearings on these days, and we,
The skeleton and then
I think we can get you a document to start, so you're not starting with a white piece of paper.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I think it's a great idea. Perhaps another meeting may not be necessary.
I would look at it in reverse and go, what is the council expecting?
I think they're expecting to hear kind of what was your philosophy behind the recommendations you put forward. That's my take on it.
it may be hard to describe since we
Yeah.
Well, do no harm.
Well,
Do no harm and be
it is,
responsive
but
to
I think you have
the
it.
referendum passed by the
I
citizens.
I think you just kind of go back to the charge that they gave you and answer each of those.
Clarification.
Yep.
I think you can talk about how a lot of it was clarifying wording, so it was easier to understand.
Based on the realization that this hasn't been touched for 25 years.
Correct. But Amy and I can certainly take it down, and that can, we can bring it to the next meeting, or if you want an additional meeting, either way.
And the next scheduled meeting is May 13th, and we would still have 2 following weeks before the joint work session on June 1.
Correct, yes.
what's the date they gotta call the election?
Yes.
August 27th.
August 24th?
Yeah, 24th, 27th or 24th. Let's see.
Well, how about we keep our May 13th meeting as is and review whatever it is we get from them and then decide if we need another
The
meeting.
20th or 27th.
Right.
Okay.
I agree
We're
with
just
that.
finessing
Okay.
3 articles from Pete and then have the rest of the time to review anything we're trying to present to the council that may need, it is what we need to do.
We need to have another one or not. Up to me for the
Sure.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Good. Anything else? All right, no other topics. Got a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Bill, motion to adjourn, second.
Second that.
All right. John, second. Any discussion?
12 seconds.
All right, all in favor, show of hands, please. Thank you. Y'all are definitely the troopers. I appreciate it.
Crazy, guys.
I know.
Hey,
Lots of good work.
I-
hey,
Always a pleasure. I'll see you next time.
once again, Mr. Chair.
I'll actually be there.
Keep the meal on track.
Yeah.
I've been walking here for a while.
I was worried, I thought we were gonna go,
I
I was
think-
gonna miss
I
that
think
10
I'll
o'clock news.
clarify on what the entire.
It'll be all right.
What is it? What do you think it is?
Okay.
Get me too.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
I'm wearing a black shirt. I'm wearing a black shirt.
I got it.
It'll give it a beer.